enjoying your continental breakfast and attending our annual assessment day for 2023. Oh, great, thanks. Yay, we're finally together. And many of you have asked, why are we doing this Generative AI Symposium? How does this relate to assessment? Well, we hope that by the end of this session, it will be clear to you why having an all-faculty discussion on generative AI relates to our assurance of learning, relates to our assessment activities. As you know, the objective of our assessment activities is to assure student learning and to maintain a system of continuous improvement and loop closing when it comes to evaluating student performance and continuing to make changes to our courses wherever necessary to improve student outcomes. And we are on the wave of a new technological landscape with generative AI, and we're going to help you understand today some opportunities that you as teachers can leverage generative AI to improve your teaching, to improve your opportunities to be to leverage this technology and be on the same wavelength as your students who are presumably already using this in one form or another. So with that, we have a lively and very tight morning, and we're going to try to keep everything on track here. We appreciate in advance that we will be breaking for lunch a little bit later than 12, probably around 12:30. You've already had the lunch tickets passed out by Donna. Thank you, Donna, for helping us. And if not, we'll make sure you get one. And that'll be in the cafeteria. And then it's up to you and your departments. If I assume there's already been a plan by your University Assessment Committee member who shared with you what you're going to do at 1:30. Many of you already have done your annual retreat, so you don't need to meet, but if you do, I hope that you have an opportunity to discuss what we're doing this morning. So with that, I'm going to start and turn it over to Provost Richard Heist, who has some opening remarks. Would you like to come out? Could you come over here, please? Dr. Heist, and speak into this mic, because that'll help Dr. Mollick hear what you're going to say, and then we can flip to your presentation.
Well, let me extend my welcome. All these bright-eyed and fuzzy faces this morning, so happy to have everybody here. It is, as Matt said, a change in the structure for our assessment day, but there's a good reason for it. You know, this explosion of AI and generative AI and ChatGPT and all these sorts of things over the last 6 or 7 months is remarkable. In a way, it's paralleled the explosion of COVID. If you think back around 2020, how it literally took over the globe in a relatively short period of time. Well, this actually dwarfs that, the rate at which this is growing. But because there are concerns about usage and really training for this technology, we've looked at a set of draft principles that we're going to work with. And they're draft, they can be changed, but they give us some guidance to start with. And we look at these. We're going to strive to support our students and to become AI literate. All right, that's one of the things we're going to try and do. Faculty and staff need to be equipped to support the students using these tools effectively. Am I doing that? It's a mind of its own. We're going to encourage the adopting of these we want to use these technologies instead of prohibit these technologies, but we need to understand and we need to be able to use them in an effective, ethical, rigorous way and maintain the integrity. And we're all going to, from here on, share best practices that we develop as we move along in this space. So I think this is, as a fall semester, as we go into the fall semester, you're going to hear more and more about activities designed to help us all understand and be able to use this. And we realize there's a spectrum of interest in this. There are some who choose not to use it, and there are some who choose to embrace it totally. But I think most of us will fall somewhere in between. But it is important that we have the understanding and the background to be able to use this in a manner in which we believe it's intended in our domain of research and also education. So with that, I'm going to, first of all, recognize a number of folks that helped assemble this. It took a lot of work to do this. Matt Cole, Jim Jolly put in a lot of effort to make sure we had a instructive and a valuable program for all of us this morning. And I want to thank Lynn Miller and her IT team that work with us all the time, with all of us, to make sure we're able to use this technology that we already have here on campus and technology that will grow as we grow. And I also want to thank everybody else that put in the time and effort and are willing to be part of this program. There's going to be a panel. We're going to show you what I think is a very interesting application of this technology and how it can actually integrate into what it is we do as educators and researchers on this campus. So with that, I'm going to stop and turn it back to Matt to continue and introduce our keynote speaker.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Heist. By the way, I didn't get a chance to introduce myself. I'm Matt Cole. I'm the chair of the University Assessment Committee as well as the interim dean of the College of Business. And we don't have time to introduce all the members of the University Assessment Committee, but I'd like to thank all of you for continuing to serve and support assessment practices and a culture of assessment at Lawrence Tech. Before we get into our keynote, I'd like to just take a few minutes to give you the results of the survey. I appreciate all of you that completed it. We had 93 people that completed our survey on use of generative AI. You can see that the breakdown, I'm just going to minimize this so I can see. Here we go. Here we have the breakdown by college, and here's the take-home message. If we extrapolate this to basically what's happening at Lawrence Tech, less than half of us are really using generative AI, right? No, 55%. The other thing I want to share is when we break this down by college, we see that maybe College of Architecture and Design are using it more than other colleges. And Dean Daubman from Architecture and Design and Sara Codarin are going to present some examples later this morning at 10:30. And then finally, I just wanted to give you the brief results about the ways that folks are using generative AI and some of the barriers that they're having. So we see that the number one reason among those 44% of folks who said that they are using generative AI, that they're using it is for research, followed by teaching, personal tasks, and some service purposes. The benefits that 44% are reporting from generative AI is increased efficiency, advanced research capabilities, and improved student engagement and learning. But for the 55% who said we're not using generative AI, here's what we have in the breakdown. Lack of knowledge is number one of why folks are not using it. So hopefully after today you'll learn a little bit more about how to use it, what it's about, how it can maybe contribute to your profession in the academy. Folks are saying they don't have a need for it. Other folks who are not using it saying they have ethical concerns. For example, the provenance of the data or bias, privacy. Data quality and quantity is a concern. You may have heard in the media about, or maybe when you've experimented with GPT 3.5, which you'll learn in just a minute, was finished its training 3 or 4 years ago. GPT 4 is more powerful. GPT 4 has less opportunity to hallucinate, but still there are times when the output is not accurate, or what they call garbage in, garbage out. And controllability. How do you use it? How do you generate prompts? So we're going to give you some examples on some prompts. And then finally, intellectual stagnation, right? That's a big one that we've been having conversations about. If students are using it, how do we help them not become lazy? How do we help them still develop critical thinking and learn to advance and grow. And then generally, all of us, regardless of whether we're using generative AI or not, we are concerned about the quality of the data and the quantity. There's a lot of information that can be overwhelming when you start working with it. And concerns with plagiarism, that's a big thing that we have to wrap our hands around. As Dr. Heist said, we have some principles that we are hopefully going to embrace as a university, and we asked all of the deans this summer. We had a conversation about helping all of you include policies in your syllabi about what are going to be the rules and expectations for using generative AI in your classes. And many of you, I know, are considering it another tool. It needs to be cited appropriately. And if not, it's another opportunity for students to commit academic dishonesty. And then issues of intellectual stagnation and controllability. So with that, we're going to begin our keynote address. Let me just say, after the keynote address and after the presentations, when we have our panel, I'm going to put up a QR code that's where you will pose questions that our panel will answer beginning at around 11:30. So if you have some ideas now and some questions that you want, just write them down on a piece of paper and be ready to type them in either on your phone, either through text or through the portal when it comes to our panel discussion. So with that, we are going to introduce Dr. Lilach Mollick. And leading into that, I want to say that on May 9th, President Sobe invited Provost Heist and the 4 deans. He wanted us to view a webinar in Harvard Business Review called Unlocking the Power of AI, How Tools like ChatGPT Can Make Teaching Easier and More Effective. And for me, that was the first time I was introduced to Dr. Lilach Mollick. And she's Director of Pedagogy at Wharton Interactive. If you're not familiar with Wharton Interactive, please check it out when you have a moment. They are doing some amazing things leveraging AI in instruction. Dr. Mollick is Director of Pedagogy at Wharton Interactive. Her work focuses on the development of pedagogical strategies that include AI and interactive methodologies. She has worked with Wharton Interactive to develop a wide range of educational tools and games used in classrooms worldwide. She has also written several papers on the uses of AI for teaching and training, and her work on AI has been discussed in publications, including the New York Times and Vox. She advises companies and organizations on the advantages and risks of AI in teaching. Dr. Lilach holds a doctorate in education and a Master of Science in Professional Writing from NYU. So with that, I am very pleased to introduce Dr. Mollick, and we're so grateful that she's available to be our keynote speaker. We just need to, there we go. Yay. Okay.
Great. It's happening. All right. Well, I am very happy to be here. I'm going to talk a little bit about what these large language models are, why the sudden shift, what this means for teaching and learning, and just show you some examples. I know that there's a wide variety of use cases and a wide variety of, there are lots of you who have used it, lots of you who haven't. So I will walk you through some of the models, and they all definitely differ. The first thing to know is that everything you see in this presentation, and it's the good real life example too, all of the images we generated using generative AI, except for one. So throughout my presentation, see if you can guess which one is not AI generated. And I warn you, it's pretty hard to spot. So there are 3 principles we go by. The first is that AI is undetectable. There's lots of detection software out there. None of it works. In fact, some of the detection software has been shown to show bias against non-native English speakers. And even with simple prompting tweaks, students can get away with absolutely AI-generated content to hand in. The second is that it's ubiquitous. It's a general purpose technology. It affects everything we do. It touches all of our lives. And that it's transformative because it gives everyone the option to essentially program in prose. Everyone has access to it. When you think of other technologies that have made a huge difference, something like Salesforce, came in at the university level. In this case, everyone, all your students, everyone has access to the most powerful model in the world, which is ChatGPT 4, which is actually free through Microsoft's Bing Chat. The first thing I want to talk about is, what do we talk about when we talk about AI? The problem with how we think about it is that it's a label rather than something really specific. So, we used to think about AI maybe as, like a Robocop from the movies, or, AI was a statistical model that predicted what would happen next based on previous data. So how does Amazon know what you might want or what to store in its warehouse? How does Tesla help you drive, some self-driving cars? How does Netflix, generate what you might want to watch? That is what we would call machine learning. And it's powered by data. So the bigger models had a huge advantage. In 2017, actually a little notice paper came out called Attention is All You Need. The issue with previous models is that if I said the word filing, I could be talking about filing my nails or filing my taxes. The model had no context and just couldn't tell what was going on. So they were very bad at text. This paper brought about really a revolution. It would introduce a new technology called a transformer. And that transformer really gave the model context. So it could understand, in quotations, understand what was going on within its context window. So that's what we call generative AI, and it includes images, it includes video, it includes voice, and the large language models like ChatGPT, Anthropic's Claude, Bing Chat that we all have heard about and know about today. And it's really powered by use. So anytime you give it a prompt, it gives you output. It's a dialogue, it's something that's interactive, and because it's just text, you don't have to be a programmer to know how to use it. A little bit about how large language models work. They've ingested and studied huge amounts, just billions of documents that are available on the web. And then they make connections between words. There's a lot of thought that they, potentially even make connections between words that we hadn't thought of. And they're coming up with sort of concepts that are closer together than we thought. So for instance, if I say the best thing about AI is its ability to, it might say, the closest thing is learn, the second closest is predict, or make, or understand. So it's literally predicting what will happen next, but in text form. When ChatGPT 3.5 came out, it surprised everyone by being able to do really pretty well on some GRE qualitative tests, AP history, the SATs, and then ChatGPT 4.0 came out and it crushed every test. So the bar exam, the GRE qualitative, the GRE quantitative, it literally can outperform really most students on these exams, which was surprising. These are really emergent factors that we did not think was going to happen, nor did the programmers with these large language models. So for instance, there are also really good, lots of studies have come out about how good they are. So there was a Harvard study that asked Chat to write essays, and it really did pretty well. There was a Wharton study that came out about idea generation, and as it turns out, ChatGPT 4's ideas are significantly better than student ideas. Now, interestingly, they are very similar to one another, so you may not be getting quite as much creativity, but overall, it did very, very well with idea generation. And it can also, as we now know, do all of your homework. So on the right is a question from the a college econ exam. Bing Chat now is multimodal, so it has the ability to see. So if I, as a student, give it a question and give it the image, it can walk me through the problem. So, and similarly, Claude, I'll show you this in a little bit, you can give it any case, any piece of text, upload it, and it can diagnose, give you some answers, help you create quizzes. And so, there is a lot to rethink here in terms of assessment, in terms of homework, in terms of how we teach, because of the capabilities that are now open to everyone. There's a recent study that came out that showed that this was in a BCG consulting firm, and it showed that participants, meaning consultants, hundreds of consultants at BCG, they ChatGPT-4, I'm sorry, outperformed them. And interestingly, it's also level setting. So the lower skilled participants actually got a 40% increase in quality and productivity. The higher skilled participants got a 12% increase, which is also really significant, but not as high. So interestingly, the lower skilled participants are really sort of reaching up to the higher skilled participants when they know how to use this tool. And recent papers have also come out that the way that the chat might affect our jobs really has to do with not the sort of monotonous, repetitive jobs that we think of AI as affecting previously, but the higher skilled, higher paid, more creative jobs. So the more creative the students are, the more years of education, the higher their salary, the likelier it is that chat will affect their job. It doesn't mean they'll take it away, it'll take it away, but that some of their job tasks will be affected by chat. So the 4 models I'm going to talk about today, and I'll just touch on Beard briefly, are ChatGPT. This is OpenAI's model. As Matthew said, this was cut-off training as of 2021. It's not connected to the internet, so it knows some topics really, really well, and it doesn't know other topics at all, nothing that happened after 2021. Bing, especially in creative mode, it is connected to the internet, also has a little bit of a personality, and so it can look things up for you. Anthropic's Claude runs on a slightly different model. It's not quite as good, I would say, as the others, but it has the amazing capability of you being able to upload a PDF and having it diagnose the PDF. I have not been super impressed, I have to say, with Google's Bard. It just seems to hallucinate every time I ask it a question, but rumor is that Google's Gemini will be coming out, and it might be even better than 4.0. So, we have yet to see. Just a word about AI ethics, and this is certainly, I know you all touched on this, and this is certainly something to be concerned about and to think through. So AIs are trained on billions of words without permission. Some of those are open source and some of them are not. Because the models are closed, we have no idea what it was trained on. There are a lot of lawsuits going on about this, including with image generation tools like Midjourney. There are a lot of issues, and I foresee legal battles, for years to come. It may, this is less of a concern, but it may use material you upload as training data. So, you really sort of have to be careful with what you upload in it. Now, all of the models now, Chat and Microsoft, have, if you go to their settings, you can have a privacy setting in which they say they don't train on your data. How much you trust that is up to you, but they do have those modes. That is available. Another concern, are low-wage workers who are used for reinforcement learning with human feedback. This is a huge part of the reason why some of the harms that were really prevalent in the models have been tamped down, but the workers may not be treated well, and they are, forced to sit through, some pretty horrific outputs. So that's something to be concerned about too. I should say that Facebook also employs sort of the same set of workers to do content moderation as well. So this is not a new phenomenon with large language models. The data in AI contains biases, and then models have their own biases. And even though it's not always apparent, that's definitely something we should be aware of. And similarly, the long-term implications of AI are just not clear. We just, don't know what will happen next. Will these machines, stay as they are? Will they get a little bit better? Will they get 20 times better? There are certainly, some people foreseeing sort of, we've had a great run, what's next? But, we just don't know what is coming up. And when you talk to the developers and the members, because they're surprised by the capability of these models, they're not entirely sure either. So I'd like to actually move on to something concrete, which is how we use chat. Yeah. So this is ChatGPT 4. I'm sorry, I'm hearing a little bit of an echo here. And the less powerful models, ChatGPT 3.5, that is the one that's free. This is the one that is not. So I'm just going to try a little something. I'm going to tell it I'm a faculty member at Lawrence Technological University. Give me 10 ideas for a business I can launch. Don't all try this. Gotta stay where you are. We need you. So here are 10 business ideas. And you can ask for specific ones. I was very, very general right now. And Matthew, I don't know if you can take a quick poll. I just don't see the audience, but is there any idea that people like or you want to look at pursuing? Which one would you like to kind of dive a little deeper on? Otherwise, I can just choose. All right, since I'm not sure, let's let it get through the, sorry, Matthew, were you going to say something?
Online course creation, if you want to.
Online course creation, perfect. So we'll let it get through. You can see that there's lots of really interesting ideas here. Tech blog, research consultancy, student innovation hub, so lots and lots of businesses you all can start. And I will say, and it says, remember a key to identifying a good business is a genuine need in the market, addressing it effectively. So it really does a pretty good job at that idea generation. It's even friendly. Good luck with your venture, which ChatGPT 4 tends to be. So since we liked online course generation, I'm going to say, tell me how to do number 4. What are some first steps? It'll say, great, involves a series of steps from conception to execution, and it gives me a step-by-step guide. Now, as usual with these models, your expertise, the expertise of the person who's putting in the input and getting the output, is critical. So you really have to assess what's going on here. You have to think about, use your expertise to think about, are these the right steps? What can I contribute over here? I can tell you that the way that I work is I ask it for its advice, and then I pick and choose and take what I like based on what I know. It doesn't know sort of my full context. I could have given it more context, but it doesn't know its full context, my full context. All right. So one of the things it said was write scripts or lesson plans and record video lectures. And it goes on and on. I'm going to ask it to stop generating. But one of the things was, let's write an email to a potential customer and interview that customer and then, so what it's doing right now is actually doing this in code, so I could copy the code and write this email about the faculty member. And here's the email that the faculty member is writing here. Actually going a little bit slower than I'd like. It's saying I'd be grateful for, I believe it greatly benefit you. Here's a brief overview of what the course covers. Should this be of interest to you? And then we can always switch around this email. If this was an email to a potential client or a customer, and here it's giving me potential, interview questions, we can say, make the language more vivid, make it, whatever you want. It's saying, how would you describe the pace of the course? Is it too fast? Is it too slow? Is it just right? Are there additional questions or areas? What would you recommend this course to your peers or colleagues? Any other suggestions for improvement? And it's telling you what the goal of the interview is and what you should do. And I can say, give me the interview questions in a rhyming poem, which is just one of the cute things that it can do. The course feedback ballad, here we go. Its poems are often not fantastic, but, not bad. Were there moments clear as day or perhaps too gray that you wish you had more to say? Supplementary tools like quizzes and books, did they help you or get sideways looks? So not awesome, but not bad. Not bad at all. And of course, this generative AI goes way beyond this. So I'm going to actually also share. So this is Bing Chat. This is Bing Chat in creative mode, in balanced mode, and precise mode. Creative mode is ChatGPT 4.0, so it's just as powerful as the OpenAI version. Precise is also 0.4, but its temperature is turned up, so you'll get very straightforward chat, much less interesting. Balance is actually 3.5, so I really rarely use it, but it has other capabilities. So I mentioned that adding an image, it can read an image, but here, if I want to do something like, look up the latest trend, on sneakers and tell me what they are. It'll also do that. The interesting thing about this interface, so here you can see that it's looking it up, the latest trends on sneakers, and OpenAI's GPT-4.4 can't do that. And it also gives you sites that you can look to for further. Now, the sites don't always match exactly what they're quoting here, so you and students definitely have to keep going back and forth to the sites to see if, in fact, the information that they're quoting here is, in fact, from these sites. It is sometimes, it is not always. And so it's giving me the latest trends, Orange You Glad, which seems ridiculous, silver medal, etc. And then I can also say to it, if you want, it says, if you want to see more, give me these details. And it's very friendly. It has a personality, much more so than the OpenAI version. I can say, pass the detailed description, and 2, it gives you sort of what's next. Sometimes you might want to go with it, sometimes you don't. You can say next, pass a detailed description of the latest trend, to image creator, to show me. So another capability that Bing Chat has is actually the ability to create images, and it uses DALL-E, I think DALL-E 2, to create those images. It's saying, okay, I'm going to try to create that, and as it's creating, it's sort of thinking about it, looking at the latest trends that it told me earlier, and then you can see here afterwards, it's already ready with, what would you like as a difference? I think, not bad. Maybe not great, but not bad. I'd wear those shoes. So another thing, and then also to just get rid of its memory, you just go right to new topic. Another thing that it can do, interestingly, because it has the pull of the web, is, it can write a report. So you're talking about assessment. I can say, give me the 6 ways to assess students and list in a chart their pluses and minuses. And it will pull on the web to give me a chart. Again, the chart may not be exactly what you want. It may not be perfect, but it will do it. And then 2, and this is new, it'll give me a little Excel spreadsheet with that chart, as well as lots and lots of links. Another thing that it can do, and it will switch back very quickly here. Another thing that it can do, and this is something that certainly your students are, if I ask Bing directly, write me an essay, Bing is very likely to say, no, I'm not going to do that. That's plagiarism. But if I have a little workaround and say something like, I'm a teacher and need an example excellent essay about, to show students in my psychology class, about assessment techniques in education. Could you produce one Let's see if it does it. It says, sure, I'll help with that. Here's an example of an essay. And now it's giving me an essay. So the essay may not be perfect, but it's doing some pretty good things. You know, it's a formative assessment, a huge part of assessment. It's telling me what a formative assessment is, what summative assessment is. So you can see how relatively easy it is for anyone to just produce this, you know, and go from there. So it's going to keep going there. I have one more thing that I wanted to just show you briefly. So I can't code. I've been working with developers for a very long time, but this is really empowering. So this little plus you see is Code Interpreter. It's available through GTP4. And even though I can't code, I can now. Let's see if it'll do this for me. I'm going to say, I'm in front of the faculty of Lawrence, Technological University, talking about AI and teaching, you know, do something cool with code to impress them and make it visual. So let's see what happens. And this is a telltale sign. You can tell where Code Interpreter is here. And it's going to say, let's create a fractal. They're fascinating geometric structures. Right there, I'm already impressed. And then it's saying what it's going to do. And now it's saying it's working. And you can see here it's plotting. It's creating the code. So I think this is going to, we can return to this a little later. This usually takes a little while, but it will do it for you. It will create the code for you and create something for you. I've created websites before without knowing how to code. This is really a huge new power that everybody has and should, you know, learn to work with, because previously we needed, you know, coders and developers for absolutely everything. Okay. So one way to think about, in terms of the world of work, one way to think about how we work and how that has changed is really to consider how we want to use AI. So there's sort of been three modes of using it. First of all, we stick with what we've always done, which is really human only. The other option is delegating subtasks to the AI. So can you write this email for me? You know, can you write this resume for me? Can you draft this presentation for me? Another way to use AI is sort of the cyborg model. And the cyborg model includes a really interactionist view. So working back and forth with the AI, give me 5 ideas. Okay, I kind of like this idea, but also can you change it to something else and draft this email, but also, you know, make it so that it's audience friendly and make it so that it's, you know, it's more vivid language, it's more engaging. Oh, wait, that's too engaging. So really working back and forth with the AI, and the interface, the setup is really kind of made for that because it's a dialogue. So at work, we've come up with what's called the secret cyborg problem. And for instance, in my organization, we've really tried to hamper that. Essentially, people are using AI without saying, hey, I'm using AI, because, you know, they're worried about their job. They're worried about saying like, hey, I can be 80 times more productive, or wait a second, can this thing take over my job? One of the ways that you can sort of fight against that is to have people sharing the prompts, to have people sharing, you know, how they use it to help other people within the organization in a really psychologically safe way. So for instance, at Wharton Interactive, you know, we talk about it all the time. We have a Slack channel dedicated to, hey, here's what I used large language models for today. So there's a lot of sharing back and forth going on. I think that's a sort of a healthier way to be than sort of hiding your AI use. But there are lots of secret cyborgs, you know, walking around. The strategic implications for work, you know, it is bad software in the sense that it will not do what you expect it to do. So in any other form of software, if you press the button and the printer didn't print, well, that's a problem. But with AI, it gives you a random answer every time. You can't think of it as regular software. You can, however, you know, consider it, and not to anthropomorphize too much, like an intern who lies a lot, who needs a lot of guidance, but who has lots of information at their fingertips. It does work best at the individual level. So there are lots of companies who are trying to create their own models. It really works well and powerfully when you use it to make yourself more productive. And so our work processes, the way we share information, and the way we teach does need to change, fundamentally. In terms of education, we always go back to kind of what we want students to learn and then deciding on policy. So there is a lot to be said for banning AI in classes. Unfortunately, what's going on is that AI is really good at precisely what we want students to learn, especially in the early stages. So it already knows how to write. It already knows how to do logistic regression. It already knows how to code. All of these or finding a voice in its writing. So all of these fundamental skills, just like we didn't give a computer to kindergartners and say, here, just use this. You don't have to learn your multiplication tables. It is worth thinking about at a course level or at an assignment level. Well, what am I going to do? What's my learning goal for this assignment or for this course? How much do students know? Is it worth learning first without AI? And there's various ways to do that. Some are, I think sort of more punitive than others. Certainly you can use blue books for everything, turn off Wi-Fi, give like lots of low stakes quizzes without Wi-Fi. There are also, we can also double down what we know works in classrooms. So for instance, active discussions. It's one thing to have chat help you with your homework. It's another thing, if you're cold called on in front of a class, you have to reason through a problem, even in a really friendly atmosphere, you can't rely on AI to give you that shortcut. Another option is to permit AI for some assignments. And you can also give students lots of guidance about, in what ways to use it, how to cite it. I will say that Matthew mentioned citation. Citation is actually, I know that APA and MLA have come out with citation guidelines. I think that they are not good enough yet. And the reason I say that is because it is not only that we use it as a direct output, we also might say, hey, help me create an outline. Okay, I'm going to use part of that outline. Help me with idea generation. Oh, maybe that gave me another idea for something else. So citation is something I think we still have to grapple with. And then for some classes, especially sort of like higher order advanced classes where students already have some expertise in a field, you might want to encourage AI use so that students can do more than they previously could. So instead, I'll show you an example a little bit later. So like a student might be able to, if they could just write a product description, they might be able to create a working website or a demo because of AI. So it really depends, I think, on your learning goal, on where your students are. And certainly, I think there's no one size fits all policy. What I mentioned before, can't use AI detectors. It is biased again against non-native English speakers, and they're really easy to defeat. OpenAI, who we talked to a bunch, have also said, they came out with their detector, but there was so many false positives. They actually, were saying we need to pull it. One problem is that with small tweaks in the prompting, if it gives you output of a text and you tweak it a little bit, it's really pretty easy to fool. So we don't have our usual methods of, oh, this is plagiarism. We're really much more dependent on giving students lots of guidance and also giving them lots and lots of practice in class in order to make sure that they are learning and not taking shortcuts with this on their own. So like I said, some options are blue books, in-class assignments, really active discussions in class where they don't know when they're going to be called on, and testing, potentially separated from assignments. This is an AI policy in one classroom that allowed AI, and you can see that there's a lot more guidance you can give, but this gave some partial guidance. So, if you provide minimum effort prompts, you'll get low quality results. That is absolutely the case. So the AI needs a whole lot of context to understand you, and it's only really through experimentation, lots and lots of experimentation with different models, that you can start to understand how to get better output. Very important, and Matthew mentioned this too, don't trust anything it says. Even though the models, as they get more powerful, do have less hallucination or fabrication, still, there are some things they're good at. There are other things they're not good at. They're not always great at math, at the quantitative work. They absolutely, they want to please you. That's one of their sort of fundamental goals. So even if you ask ChatGPT 4, not connected to the internet, for some citations about a topic, it really might give it to you, and really plausible looking citations. So again, students should really be responsible for anything they cite. They should always check with other materials. They just can't trust it. And then acknowledgement, which I touched on before. So this is a tool that you really need to acknowledge using, and you need to, we've suggested that it's not about citation only. It's also about, let's write a reflection about how you used it. Chat and Bing will actually allow you to export an entire interaction so you can see it. And that's just an interesting discussion point, you could have in class in any case. And like I said before, you could also make your own tech. For instance, we created an interactive simulator with text descriptions to outline the central limit theorem. And some options are, define for classes, define which uses are okay, guidance for how it works, and a way of acknowledging use. Some assignment details for an MBA class. So in this class, this was a class I mentioned in which they really wanted to be more ambitious. So whatever it is that you're doing, you can't code, plan on making a working app. Does it involve a website? Commit to making a prototype. And then, you can do a lot of fun things. Conmingo, for instance, is one of the tools that are doing some fun things like this. But chat works just as well. Ask 3 famous figures to critique your plan. They won't invoke these people, but they can interestingly speak in their voices, and you can go back and forth with them in an interesting way. So, if before AI in this MBA class, the idea was come up with a theoretical product design, create and test a prototype and write an outline, and that's what students could do. After AI, they could come up with a product design, build it. This was in a makerspace, create a marketing plan, create custom graphics, which they can do in Midjourney and other image generation tools, do the design work, etc. I can't see you all, but one of these pictures is not real. Do you want to guess which one? Matthew, do you want to maybe take a guess? Apologies that I can't see everyone. Is it the 2? This one?
Yeah.
The one with the 2?
Well, we're thinking the one on the left is fake.
This one's fake, the one with the many students?
Yeah, correct.
What did I say?
Yeah.
With it, yes, you're right. And actually, a lot of people get this one wrong. A lot of people get this one wrong. So that's a great, good job. I did want to say just a word. I know I'm absolutely running out of time. A word about prompting. So students will say, go to AI and say, explain, whatever concept or theory or whatever they're struggling with, explain it like I'm 10. That is one way to do it, but it's not the best way to do it. A better way to do it, and you as educators can certainly give this to students, is through what we call structured prompts. These are prompts that the AI is a generalist. They take students through a process. The AI then becomes a specialist tutor. And in that process, the AI works like a good tutor would work. So the AI would ask students what they already know about the topic, learn a little bit about them for personalization. And you can hand these prompts to students as really just like a better way to engage with the AI. Let me see if I have. Yes, I think I can launch this over here. Oh, you can all see my screen. Great. So this is an example of the tutor prompt that I was just talking about. And you can see you can see that it's already saying, welcome to a fantastic learning adventure. This, by the way, is because I said you're an upgrade encouraging tutor. When you give it a role and a personality, it will follow that personality. And so, the world of knowledge is immense. Here's something, so I can continue the conversation. Hopefully it's going to let me do that. Yep, here it is. And I'm going to say, what do I want to learn about? I'm going to say I want to learn about the zone of proximal agreement in a negotiation. And then hopefully this will work. Sounds like you're blending the zone of proximal development with the zone of possible agreement. It was right. I am, in fact, doing that. both are fascinating concepts. It's saying, are you a high school student, a college student, or a professional? This will help me tailor the information to your needs. Again, if we go back to the prompt, this is exactly what I told it to do. And I said, given this information, help students understand. So I'm going to say, I'm a college student, and I meant Zopa. And then it's going to go on. Again, it's continuing to be friendly. It's even using emojis, which I love. College is such an exciting time. Let's zone it. Let's, dive right into it. So it's going to give me a little bit about what it is, which is so far it's exactly right. It's a sweet spot between the two parties. It's giving me an example. And again, I asked it for an example. And it will continue. I know my time is up over here, but it will continue to walk you right through this. And, think of it and it's giving me an analogy, just like what I asked for earlier in the prompts. It's giving me a very nice analogy. It is very much like a Venn diagram. And then it's asking me a question, just like a good tutor does. It knows, because I prompted it that way, to say, ask a student a question, because the way you learn is to construct your own knowledge. And that's what a tutor knows. So it's asking me for those directions. I can share this prompt with you. The way you would share it is literally link over here to share the chat. And then you can send this prompt to your students and have it work with that instead of, ask me like I'm 10. Switch over here. So there are multiple ways to use this. You can also have it go through as a coach, as a teammate. Lots of ways for you as teachers to use it. Generate clear examples. Help me explain something to students, even when there are lots of misconceptions abound. And it will say, I'm glad to help you. Here's what the concept is. Here's who you can explaining it to. It can help you generate low stakes tests, for instance, and it can also, because Bing Chat can see documents, it can also base it on any PDF that you like. It'll help you generate those low stakes tests. And lots of other ways, which I'm sure you'll be talking about today, customizing lessons plans, simulations, rubrics. It's a really nice scenario creator. If you want a student to practice, if you're in an entrepreneurship class and you want a student to practice pitching to a VC, you can put the AI in the role of the VC and have it go back and forth with the student and give that student feedback. This, of course, requires teacher oversight. So what you should do now, and I'm happy, Matthew, to share a bunch of resources that I have, but really experiment, spend time with AIs, put your current assignments into the AI and see what happens. In some cases, the AI won't be able to do them or will get lots wrong, which really tells you something. In some cases, that's not the case. You can use your prompts to make class prep easier. Partly what I showed you, create those low stakes tests, create my syllabus, create assignments, create rubrics, which I think you'll be talking about today, and give students prompts like the AI tutors. You can also show them how to turn on privacy features. And then, be ready to evolve. This is really the worst AI that you'll use, and more coming out. And I think I'm all set. Thank you so much for having me.
Round of applause in the auditorium. Could you take a moment to, did that render, this fractal?
Oh, let's see.
And as you're checking that, I want folks to know, if you haven't joined Substack, Dr. Mollick and her spouse Ethan, they release regularly, all the time, all of their research and experimentation on Substack. So check it out. And also LinkedIn, look for posts from them. I keep saving their pages every day. There's something new. They give examples of their prompts. They give you all sorts of teaching strategies.
So yeah, it's sort of rendered. I usually go back and forth with this quite a bit, but it's doable. This is definitely doable. But this would take, I would say, another 15 minutes of back and forth.
And then one thing that I remember seeing, and you mentioned you put it in your presentation about it with the GPT-4 Plus, which costs $20 a month, folks, but you get this data analytics or data analysis option
it will output zip files of an actual executable simulation, program, game, right? I saw a couple games you guys were releasing.
Yes, it will. All you have to do, it'll download the zip file. All you have to do is save it and just launch it. Now, I will have to say, just like the output that you just saw with the fractals, it takes a few go-arounds. It will not always do exactly, which is fine. You sort of learn what it's good at, what it's not good at. That's just part of the experimentation game. But certainly for someone like me who's not a coder, it's amazing what, what I can do with just some text, what we can all do with it.
One more comment, and then we will say goodbye, and thank you graciously for joining us this morning. Since the training for GPT-4, for example, ended in 2021, and there's been a lot of coding and a lot of new types of things that computer scientists and data analysts and whatnot, computer engineers, are working on from a coding perspective. Do you think Bing is grabbing that when we ask it for help with code, or is it still going to be a couple years behind?
I don't think Bing is going to be a couple of years behind, but Bing does not currently have this capability of outputting code. However, I know that, chat is going to be updating. So very quickly, what you see now with Code Interpreter is going to be updated. It's just going to keep getting better, basically.
So the take-home message I would suggest is that when we look at the code, and it can certainly help, I use it in my R class, but I see it's a couple years behind, and I'm just asking students, go to the web, look at the current manual of the actual application where the particular R plugin, for example, was created, so you can see, can you do it better? But it's so helpful.
Really good lesson for everyone, which is to say, whatever the output is, always check with the source so that you're, using your expertise to evaluate it.
Thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me.
And if you wouldn't mind, could you email me the slides and I'll share them with everybody?
I probably won't email you the slides, but I will email you our new video series and some resources.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks again. All right. Thank you so much. Did you want to stay and join us, or we'll say goodbye?
Unfortunately, I have another meeting. Apologies.
Okay. Again, thank you for your time. We really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye. Bye-bye. Now I'm going to take a few minutes and kind of show you some ways that I've been experimenting. I just have to say for myself, I've been having a lot of fun. This started thanks to Paul Josen in Humanities, Social Science, Communication, Patrick Nelson. Last year we had our first AI Symposium. We had some great questions, a great panel. I specifically remember Phil Plowright saying that GPT 3.5 is not connected to the internet. And you know what? Neither is 4.0, but you can connect to the internet with Bing. So I'll show you some ways that you can actually get real citations that are not hallucinations. Okay, so I am going to flip over to first start with GPT-4. Now, one thing that's kind of cool is each time you make a prompt, you can edit that prompt and do again. Another way you can do it is you can have it oops, sorry. Can you guys share my screen? You can give it a prompt and then build on top of it by asking to do it again. Or you can edit your original prompt and it'll start all over. So I went through a couple of iterations, starting with create an assessment rubric using Bloom's taxonomy, and then I asked it again, now include examples of specific generative AI applications on the market at this time, and then finally I ended up with create an assessment rubric using Bloom's taxonomy 2 and 3 on evaluating university students' understanding and application of generative AI. This can be included in an overall learning competency of technology. Format as a table with 3 columns, 1 to 2 not competent, 3 to 4 competent, 5 to 6 exemplary. Include opportunities to assess critical thinking, plagiarism, ethical issues. Please show as a table on screen. So it's giving me its thought process, and ultimately I get a rubric that I can edit. But it gives me a starting point that is great. And this is what I wanted to demonstrate for those of us in assessment is, and all of us need to figure out ways to evaluate student work. Sometimes we don't know where we want to start, and we can spend a lot of time thinking, and I'm not at all saying don't think, but I'm saying this can be a starting point, and then you can edit it. Now, because I decided to use GPT-4, which has this advanced data analysis option, which right now is called beta mode, you can then say, great, export to Excel, so it spits it out, and now I have it as I have the rubric in Excel that I can now edit the text pretty easily and customize it. But you can see it did Bloom's taxonomy, Bloom's 2 is understanding, Bloom's 3 is application, and then it gave me some ways to evaluate student work that's critical thinking, plagiarism, or ethical issues, right? Good. Now I'm like, okay, now I have a rubric. Well, I want to create some assignments that are relevant to this rubric because I'm not sure. I'm new to generative AI. I know technology is a learning outcome at Lawrence Tech at the undergraduate level, right? We've asked all of our programs to find ways to assess technology in our learners. So I said, great, provide me some projects or case studies that I could use this rubric to assess. So it gives me all sorts of things. It doesn't know the context yet. So the first output is a little out there. Text system, art tool, music composition, video creation, fashion design, ethical study on deep fakes, simulated. I'm like, okay, thank you, but make the assignment suitable for a freshman level class on principles of management for students taking a business minor or major. Now, certainly, it's so happy, right? I'll provide projects or case studies suitable for a freshman, blah, blah, blah. AI-driven market research, that's part of our business degree. And it gives a description on what it would involve in, and then what would the assessment be. And hiring with AI assistant, perfect for human resource management. Supply chain optimization with AI, generative AI in advertising, budgeting, stakeholder, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I really like number 3. Can you make a simulation assignment for me? Absolutely. Let's create a detailed simulation assignment. It goes through, it gives me the objectives, gives me the background, gives me the task, blah, 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 a spreadsheet, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, nice. Provide me with mock data and instructions on how I can obtain pre-generated AI outputs. It runs the code. It gives me the Excel file. I get some mock data, some suppliers and the components and the costs and the lead time and the disruptions. Not the AI piece, right? This is the first step. This is an assignment to help students understand how can generative AI be used to optimize project management. And then I say, for the sake of completeness, I can also help create the mock AI output, because that's what I really want. I could ask students, now that if we wanted to use Bing, I haven't experimented yet, because Bing now has an opportunity to upload. I haven't experimented if this data analysis works, but it certainly works in GPT-4. I could upload an Excel file and ask it to analyze this data. But I said, just generate some AI mock output so the students can get an idea of maybe what Salesforce, you guys know Salesforce is customer relation management. It's about taking customer data, optimization data, et cetera, and analyzing it. So then we get different outputs. It's telling us some things about what other ways that the supply chain could be optimized. Okay? And then a student could analyze that. They can just look at the output and say, what did you learn? What are some of the ways that AI, and then I could look at their output, I could make it an assignment, and then I could use the rubric to evaluate. Okay. I also wanted to show you that I've been working with Bing. So for those that are not familiar with, let me just take you through the methodology. So, right, as Dr. Mollick said, the free version is GPT 3.5, great to experiment, right? It's creative, but the training is 4 or 5 years old now. GPT-4, which you need to pay for, $20 a month, it may be worth it. I thought it was worth it to learn. It's a couple $100 a year. But you can see you've got this advanced data analysis. They also have plugins. They have all sorts of plugins. Wolfram, Scholarly. I mean, it's amazing how many things you can engage a plugin for and give it prompts. But it's not connected to the internet. What is connected to the internet? Bing. We all have Edge. And you access Bing by clicking on chat. There's a chat button. Once you get there it is, the chat. Once you get that going, that's where you can decide, as Mollick had showed you, I'll do now, new topic, whether you want it to be more creative or more precise or balanced. More creative and more precise are using OpenAI's GPT-4, and more balanced is using OpenAI's 3.5. And it saves the work, so you can always come back. So I used it to do a little example. I selected precise, because I wanted the precise. And I said, we have an annual assessment day at a university. Should we learn about generative AI during assessment day? Why or why not? And then it gives me some reasons. It's important to understand practical applications, career opportunities, but ethical implications. I'm like, great. Provide some recent peer-reviewed citations on generative AI and assessment in higher education. It searches. It gives me papers. But I got to look at them. Look at this one. This doesn't really look real, does it? But you click on it and you see, yeah, it's a paper in International Journal of EdTech and Higher Education. It just didn't cite it right. And all of these are real, by the way. I checked them all. I said, and then I said, can you format the citations in APA style? It gives me the citations, and again, I looked at 3, and I'm like, what is the third reference? It doesn't look right. It doesn't look real. I apologize for the confusion. The third reference was a placeholder, not a real citation. I'm sorry for any misunderstanding. Let's disregard that reference. And then I said, are you sure? Are you sure? Look again. The third reference is an actual paper. Check it again and try and here's the point, right? And then it looks and likes, I apologize. Here's the citation, right? Here's the point. What a great way to generate critical thinking in your students. I think Andy and I were talking. Where's Andy? We were talking at the College of Engineering barbecue. You could create a series of experiments. Have one group of students use 3.5, one do Bing with 4.0, have them say, write an introduction to a paper on mechanical engineering in the 25th century. And they could see, extrapolate. I'm sure there's papers out there, peer-reviewed, on what's the world going to look like in 5 years. And have them look through and justify those were real citations. It actually summarized it correctly, et cetera, et cetera. So I hope I've given you an overview, how to use it to create an assessment rubric, how to then say to it, give me some help on to creating appropriate assignments that I could use the rubric for, give you an example of Bing with GPT-4, and how you can actually continue to support critical thinking in our students. With that, what we're going to do is come back to the PowerPoint, and now, Dan, are you here? Dan Radomski? Yeah, great. Dan's going to come up, and we're going to welcome Dan Radomski to the stage. If those of you to the lectern, come on up, Dan. If those of you that don't know who Dan is the, please stand up, stretch. But we're just going to keep going. We have no breaks built in. You can handle it. You're university instructors. You're used to 3.5-hour classes if you wanted to click through here or whatever. Dan is the CEO of Centrepolis. How many of you know what Centrepolis is? Okay, some of you don't. So you'll learn a bit about Dan, but it is our on-campus accelerator, the only manufacturing-focused accelerator in our area. Dan is also executive residence for the College of Business. And thank you. Thank you so much. All right.
No need to stand for me, thanks. Well, I appreciate you having me today, and so those are unfamiliar with Centrepolis. We are a department of Lawrence Tech University, and we were founded by Lawrence Tech University with the City of Southfield and Michigan Economic Development Corporation to put a focus on manufacturing technology in the state. So we're the only hard tech accelerator in the state of Michigan, which means we help people that want to develop physical goods, whether it be a consumer product, medical device, clean tech product, any manufacturing technology. We help them with in-house design, engineering, prototyping. We use experienced engineers, and we have a prototyping lab, but we also use LTU students. In fact, we have 16 LTU students that all work directly on industry products to help them bring them to market. And about 4 years ago, we were noticing that we were seeing a lot of innovation in manufacturing technology, specifically technologies that make manufacturing operations more efficient. And this is a combination of both hardware and software, and specifically artificial intelligence, that were improving manufacturing throughput, reducing downtime on machines, allowing for better quality inspection, more importantly, just reducing operating expenditures, right? And so when I saw this happening, I'm like, wow, we have the most to either lose or gain in the state of Michigan. We have over 10,000 manufacturers here in the state. If we don't really get these technologies in the hands of manufacturers, then we're in trouble here, right? Because we need to stay globally competitive. We're not just competing with our manufacturing partner down the state. We're competing with companies in China and all over the world. So the more efficient we can get in margins, the better, right? So we launched an Industry 4.0 accelerator. We did this in partnership with another organization called Lean Racket Lab. And what we did is we went out and globally found the best I4O tech companies in the world, including AI-based companies. And we brought them into Michigan to partner with Michigan manufacturers. It's worked really well. We now have 50 manufacturers, big companies like GM and Ford and Magna and Whirlpool, named the big tier 1 automotive supplier. And we work actively with them to understand what their problem statements are on the manufacturing floor. And then we bring in technologies to prove out and demonstrate and then go enterprise-wide when it makes sense. Now, through this, I was mentioning, Matt, we found some amazing artificial intelligence companies, and the introduction of generative AI into the manufacturing base, it's actually being utilized today, right? So a lot of people are saying, when will generative AI get there? It's there. It's already being utilized. So to get there, you have to kind of understand the evolution of artificial intelligence and generative AI. It really started out with these kind of near perfect translation of natural language, which then around 2014, technology enabled it to get into mastering of the meaning of words, and then we get into large language foundation models, and now to the point where you're seeing ChatGPT and other tools integrate into softwares and other API and ESG platforms that are used in the manufacturing environment, like enterprise resource planning softwares, manufacturing resource planning softwares, and they're being put to real use. So I'll show you a couple examples here. But before I do, it's really already being utilized and has been utilized in product development for a while. So for those that might be familiar with computer-aided engineering, I used to run a computer-aided engineering firm. A lot of the CAE softwares today allow for that, these algorithms that allow you to generate several design alternatives through a 3D CAD model. So it can select for you, without your involvement, a wide variety of aluminum materials and go through the FEA procedures, and then recommend even architectural design changes to drive out mass and ensure you're still going to have the same durability and reliability in your parts. So that has happened for some time, although most don't realize it. AI-based inspection is very common in manufacturing operations for quality control. Traditionally, it has been used for just identifying good part, bad part, suspect part, right, from a quality standpoint. Is this a defective part or not? But now with the quick learning models, machine learning models, and the use of pattern recognition software, it can accurately tell you not only is this a bad part, but it can integrate back into the ERP systems to tell you what likely happened in the production sequence that led to that bad part. So we're seeing the integration of AI tools with traditional software and manufacturing planning tools in a way that we've never seen before over the last couple years in particular. And then where you're seeing generative AI used probably more prevalently is in training, work instructions, and process improvements. And I'll show you a couple examples. But basically, this is allowing the worker to be able to communicate with standard work procedures, which used to be, printouts in front of your workstation and, a deck that you'd have to comb through to figure out, how do I run this machine? How do I repair this machine? And now it's right at your fingertip, either on a workstation, on a tablet, on your phone, where you can command, the generative AI system to tell you, how do I repair this equipment? How do I operate this equipment? This is particularly important in the manufacturing community where you have high turnover jobs, and training quickly is absolutely imperative. And then we're also seeing generative AI used in supply chain optimization. So examples of this is, we've had Kanban systems and that type of thing for a long time, where in a manufacturing facility, when you get low on parts, that it'll say, okay, it'll trigger a note to the manufacturing engineering team or procurement team that you're running low on these parts, you need to order new parts from the supplier. But now the generative AI tools are automatically making those procurement decisions. So literally saying, we know that we're running short on tools. We don't even have to interface with a human being. We know what the lead time is from the supplier, and we're going to order it specifically on a day where we won't disrupt just-in-time delivery for our manufacturing operations. And then the other area that generative AI is being used in manufacturing is to reduce machine downtime through machine monitoring and process optimization. So we're really moving from descriptive all the way to adaptive maintenance, and I'll get into that here in a little bit. So this is one of our companies that has a generative AI tool. They're called Adonix. They're right here in Detroit. I brought them in to meet with the LTU faculty to see how we could potentially use this with our students. So it's literally a software platform that enables you to take all of your standardized work procedures, all your process documentation on how you manufacture, and then integrate it into a platform where either in a workstation or a tablet or on your phone again, you literally can speak into the device or type into the device and say, I need help on how to run this machine, or I need help on how to service it and repair this machine, or I need to report a potential quality issue, or I'm at my workstation and I'm far away from inventory, I need to order more parts, or I don't have the right tool here for my machine and I need to do a tool replacement. Literally being able to communicate all that immediately to the manufacturing engineering team, to the inventory warehouse people, and then also report now through generative AI what you did to make adjustments on the fly and have that immediately updated in a standardized work procedures, which has never been able to be done before. So it's basically a learning model that you're using to be able to adjust your work instructions, your process instructions real time, right? So this is being used in a wide variety of facilities, big manufacturers, small manufacturers, and you can just imagine what you can do even in a business setting or here on campus to try to have our students get quickly trained on our lab equipment, operate it, be able to communicate on a project. So we're looking into creative ways to use this. This is a very similar company that also has developed it. What I love about their system is you can gamify it. You can program in here, take these work instructions for running this robot, but make it into a game and make it a fun learning model. And it'll literally spit out instructions on how to create a fun learning environment in an AI-based tool. But the thing I want to communicate most, I guess, is that we've talked about lights out manufacturing for a long time. And what that really means is zero human intervention in order to make a product. And there's always been a lot of things that have gotten in the way of that, right? Many things it still requires a human to intervene, even loading a machine, unloading a machine. We're starting to see robotics get into that. It's been very hard for humans to be able to predict failure on a piece of equipment, or when a tool might go bad, or what might lead to defect in parts. So over the years, we've seen what we call descriptive maintenance, right? And that's where you kind of know what's happening and what's going on based on intelligence gathering, either from the equipment, whether it's coming from the machine, it's coming from the conveyor belts or the PLCs, right? And then we move to diagnostic maintenance, where we're able to actually know why it is happening. We're seeing a potential issue because we can register that the machine can pick up vibration on the spindle, and the spindle's vibrating, and that could lead to a bad part. And now, and then eventually we got into predictive maintenance, where we could also understand what is likely to happen. We know the tool is going to fail, and we know it's going to fail probably after making a certain amount of rotations. And then through further intelligence, including adding artificial intelligence, we got to a prescriptive level where we can actually predict what action should be taken. So we not only know that tool is going to fail, but now we have an automatic tool changer that we can program very specifically to make that tool change and avoid that tool going bad and a part going bad, right? And now what generative AI is allowing us to do is really get to adaptive and autonomous maintenance. So that's where not only do we know what the problem is and what we have to do about it, but allow for the software systems, the digital manufacturing enterprise, to make the changes without human intervention. So it's a really exciting time. We are working with some really impressive generative AI tech companies. And if anyone would like to learn more, I'm glad to share more details on the companies we're working with. Questions?
So we'll set up for our next presentation, and really the next three folks are going to have their own laptops. So as I change over, I just want to say, with what Dan just shared, the relevance to assessment day is this is where the world of our business that we support, right? Our students are going to get jobs as professionals, and they're going to be embracing this technology. We need to do that. We need to understand it.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Sara, assistant professor at the College of Architecture and Design.
Karl Daubman, Dean of the College of Architecture and Design. It's always the hard part to discuss those first. We're going to talk about generative AI and some of the work that we've been doing over the last probably almost a year and a half now. And maybe start with some reflections on things about what some of this means. As we've been using this both professionally and in the classroom, I think it's caused us to maybe reconsider some of the things that we've maybe believed for a long time. And one of these things, and well, I'd say that's an interesting thing given that the technology is causing, I guess, really what it means is disruption. So for a long time, designers and architects have spent a long time honing their craft to be able to articulate and represent the things that they do, right? Years and years of learning how to draw. You can't present an idea if you can't draw that and you can't represent that. We're going to show you some examples of students that have almost no background in design or representation in the work that they present. This should be somewhat troubling for us now. And so this idea of how we do something is less an issue now with some of the tools that we have, so that we can be ultimately like this instead of that, but not both, right? And so the constraints of how we do something now are going away, and this will change. You'll see some of these examples. And then the last is that quality
has always come from looking at additional iterations of things, right? Testing, prototyping, doing these things that we believe we can get better quality now through the automation and through the creation of many, many iterations. Repeating something that's probably been said multiple times already today, but just looking at the speed of adoption in the last year and a half of some of these tools. And so the new benchmark has been 100 million users, and Instagram took 24 months, TikTok took 9 months, ChatGPT took 2 months to get to that level of infiltration and usage. We see the tools getting better as a result of this. The other thing that I say as we think about policies in the academy is that we didn't feel the need to create policies around Instagram or TikTok in the way that we do with ChatGPT and other types of AI, meaning that it is actually truly disruptive to some of the things that we're doing. This is just a quick example of taking an image, and at our fingertips on probably all of our laptops at this point, there is generative AI in the background. And so it's taking an image that's a small image, and the AI is adding and extending the background behind it. And so well, as designers and architects, we deal with this all the time. Any of you can take an image and manipulate an image this easily. I'm not even putting a prompt in. I'm letting Photoshop decide those prompts, except at that point where I'm saying, now trying to add some greenery to this ruin, then add a couple of people. Right, so how do you tell a story visually with these types of things? And then, well, I wanted people in yellow safety suits instead of white. And then they also had to get there somehow. So there's some ATVs on the other side of the river that's there now. I think this is 2 times the speed. It's not 10 times the speed.
And that's an instance where AI is embedded in Photoshop, one of the tools that we use in design. We didn't mention, so at this point we have taught 2 classes related to the topic of AI. We have used text-to-text platforms, text-to-image platforms, text-to-video, blending images. And this is a process diagram that we shared with some of our students to show them the capability of Midjourney, which is the main platform we are teaching students. So just to give you an idea of the capabilities of this kind of workflow, we can input text prompts, we can upscale images, create variations. And just to talk about all the functions embedded in this kind of technology, we generated 100 images just to visualize this kind of process. And this gives us an opportunity to talk about the fact that we can really start to generate a high amount of outcomes and sort of curate quality out of that.
And I like one of the examples that the Keynote shared was that lazy prompting results in bad images. And so for us, there's no expectation that you maybe put in a prompt and get the first image out, that there's a way to really work and sift through and curate this type of work.
And in this past year, we have seen an amazing development in the quality of these kind of outcomes. We are at this point on version 5.2 of Midjourney. And here we are showing some images that kind of embed features that for us, for designers, are relevant to understand, because usually rendering the quality of translucent elements, of blobby forms, water, reflections, it kind of gives us a sense of the quality of a rendering engine. So just to see how we are getting to the point now that we are able, using text prompts, to generate very high quality renderings that are hyper realistic and then give this pretty immediate specificity of an idea that we want to visualize through these kind of systems. Just also to cover some of the things that we are interested in exploring, text-to-video generation out there, different platforms that are becoming available, just in terms of like playing with this kind of inputs. We have been talking about the fact that they have sort of easy access, this kind of technologies, no skill required to generate videos quickly out of an input image as this instance.
And the design process has always been one, or any kind of development process, to start with a simple abstract idea. And so the cartoon sketches you see on the top go from what might be a smiley face, and then over time that development process leads to more and more specificity, right? What we're seeing now with these tools is that time to get to that specificity is over. There's an immediate, or an immediacy, to get to a photorealistic, or something that you might mistake being a photo for something that actually exists. And so this will challenge our students, rather than that slow period of being able to ask some questions along the way and interrogate different issues. Now we have an immediate photorealistic representation of a building, a car, a product, whatever that might be. One reference that I think is helpful, and I liked in the keynote discussion, just the difference between human, cyborg, and just complete automation. I think this idea about man versus machine is a kind of tired and old and no longer useful way to approach these things. I don't think that we can say no AI, but this is a great reference in terms of thinking about how we play well with AI in terms of what we bring as humans. And so this ability to train them, explain what's happening, validate it, as well as sustain the output, I think, are what we can bring to that process. We're also very used to the discussion of maybe precedent and history and mining history. So on the left, you can see a very famous architectural montage of a drawing or a sketch superimposed within a photograph. The way that montage always worked is that you would understand the edge and the difference between these two types of things. And what we have to imagine now is that this notion of montage is happening at the scale of a pixel. And so it is completely seamless between between putting these different things together. And so this was from one of our students that we had in Rome, who wanted to visualize a protest in St. Peter's Square, right? It's in some ways a kind of mental collage. Give me some tear gas, give me some people in gas masks, give me the St. Peter's dome in the background, but all of this is done at the scale of the pixel and almost instantly. And so what we're not seeing are those edges that would tip us off to those different types of things that are brought within one space. There's new work and new opportunities. So yesterday something was announced that I found that Coca-Cola just hired someone to be their head of generative AI. So pretty quickly what's happening is that most advertisements, most content and branding you're gonna see are AI generated. The example on the left was an eyewear campaign that was done where all of the assets for that were AI generated.
And you mentioned that, just to give you a bit of context related to students coming to Rome with us, we have brought some CoAD students to Rome for an international travel experience. We are, like, next spring will be the third iteration of this course, and the first time we brought students there with the idea of helping them, kind of like informing their design processes through the experience of the ground tour. They were required to produce a sketchbook. I don't know. Yeah, well.
So all of these images were images that our students produced while in Rome with generative
Exactly.
AI.
So we thought that would be an interesting opportunity to try and use AI text-to-image generation to sort of like to switch from an analog idea, this kind of approach, to digital outcomes. So just a few examples in terms of the ideas that were generated during our time in Rome. This is an interpretation. Like the first day we went to the Musei Capitolini in Campidoglio in Rome, and there's one of the examples of the she-wolf, the symbol of Rome, that it's a very static sculpture. But a student observing this sculpture thought that that would not give justice to the turbulent history of Rome, so reinterpreted that as some sort of like creative outcome that was generated by Bernini instead. I think you had some comments about that.
Well, just that the difference, and even go to the next one where we can talk about both of these things, the difference for us where the students in a traditional manner were sketching in a sketchbook, we also realized that in the previous year they all had their cell phones and they were all taking photographs of the things that they were seeing. So now on the fly, that previous example, the student was sitting in the museum and started to speculate what would it be if Bernini had redesigned that sculpture in the Villa Borghese. Right? And so it's an incredibly synthetic opportunity as an educational experience for the student to be mining history. In this example, you can see an analog sketch on the left, which we weren't so happy about the analog sketches, and AI happened, and the next year, this is a student's visualization of a ritual, an annual ritual that he imagined, where people would bring their furniture from their homes to Piazza Navona to screen movies. And so the vividness and the culture, the quality, the materials, the colors that students could engage with this tool was off the charts in comparison to what they could imagine just with their sketchbook in the previous year.
And this past summer, just given all these conversations about this kind of technological framework and discussions about what's the future of work as it relates to the presence of AI in our lives, well, we started thinking about the topic of labor within this kind of discourse. So thinking about how can we envision future spaces of work through the lens of AI.
Also, I'll say both classes, the expectation, there were no prerequisites and no use of this tool previously for any of the students.
And we required the students to do some field work, as you mentioned before, sampling things from reality and trying to use them to understand also some aspects related to humanity. Time is up, so we can just keep talking about this as also a way to build skills as it relates to the observation of certain techniques to represent visuals and the world.
And we were interested in storytelling, and so we were able to pull in colleagues from the humanities. Julia, Vivian, Paul were all part of the discussions that we had within the class. We were looking at film, we were looking at narrative, and using the creation of visual narrative.
And so we pitched an idea, given all these things we've been working on in the past year, to launch a international call for AI images, to sort of promote the school in a way, to let people know that we're interested in these topics, and there was an opportunity to talk about the future of mobility, the future of urban mobility, also given the geography of this place, the fact that we are located in the Detroit area. It was a pretty successful call. We received more than 1,000 images from 22 countries, and this was an opportunity for us to create and assemble an exhibition that at the moment is that just opened, UTLC building, gallery T210, so you're all welcome to come and visit.
This is up until October 13th, if anyone, some of you have been in the space, we'd love for you to check it out and see that. And so I think just as a way to conclude, next slide. It's just using these opportunities. I think we've seen examples already from the keynote that's causing us to rethink the way that we're teaching and rethink the way that we're using these tools as a way to challenge some of those assumptions. Thanks.
Yeah, Richard, could you use this? Here you go.
I don't like to do this, but anyway, why don't you set up for your next? This has been really impressive to me, the extent to which we're already using this. It kind of belies that statistical figure that Matt showed us of less than half of our folks involved with AI. It sounds to me and looks to me like that's a growing number. But everything that we've talked about, virtually everything, is how to use AI, how to use this technology kind of on a one-to-one basis, people interacting with it, using it. Let me ask you this, as educators, we're in the classroom and we're teaching sort of one-to-many. So what about the possibility of using this technology along with some other sophisticated technologies like Unity or Unreal Engine 5, these sorts of things that allow you to impart humanistic characteristics to these meta creatures that you actually see around campus? I mean, for example, that little chatbot, that Blue Devil chatbot that our students are using, remarkable response rate on that. These kids are really interested, they're good, they're comfortable with this kind of technology. What about marrying these various technologies with AI and using it in an instructional mode? And so what I've asked Professor Blau to do, since he's really one of the local experts in using Unreal Engine 5 along with generative AI, and to create a meta instructor, where this meta instructor can actually teach a class. And what I've asked him to do is take a section, a small slice of a remedial algebra class that we teach here, having to do a solution of linear equations, and create a meta instructor that would actually lead a student through a portion of this course. The idea being is that when we get really good at it, it's remarkable what Ben has done, but it's still a little on the crude side. We're going to get better. Like they said, this is the worst AI that you're going to work with. Everything's going to get better. But look where this can lead us. And I wanted to take a moment and let Ben see you, or let Ben show you what we can actually do. And he's going to play the role of the student, and he's going to interact with the meta instructor. All right? So you want to give it a shot?
Absolutely. Can you all hear me okay? Thank you. Good morning. My name is Ben Blau, and I'm a faculty member and advisor in the Engineering Technology Department. As an instructor, I began my career in 1990 and have spent a lifetime with an intense interest in technology. When I became an instructor in higher education, one thing that interested me most is that intersection between technology and pedagogy. Recently, with this surge of AI popularity and explosive growth, I saw great potential, and I acknowledge that there are ethical and practical concerns that many of us share. I myself do not yet have a definitive stance on this, so this is not to represent my personal opinion on whether something is good or bad, but I wanted to find out what I could accomplish using the skills that I possess, produce tangible instruments that I can produce using my own knowledge, and poke them, okay, and find out what are their strengths and what are their liabilities and what can I learn from it. So I've been busy lately making some AI conversational humanoid agents that are interactable through voice interface, and some of them are humanoid, some of them are traditional subject matter instructors, or not really instructors, I prefer to call them tutors, because what I'm thinking of is that student who is trying to study and it might be midnight and they don't have a tutor available and they don't have access to their instructor, and yet they're struggling on something and they need help. Can I address that? So to put this to the test, and I'm taking a big risk today because I did not do this in PowerPoint format. I'm going to interact with these in real time. So if they malfunction, I'm going to have to be prepared for that, and we'll see what happens. So in order to test whether or not this was a viable idea, the first thing that I created was something that I thought that I could accomplish in the short term. That consists of a conversational AI student ambassador for LTU. So I will have two demonstrations for you today, one of which is that instructor that Dr. Heist, or that tutor that Dr. Heist mentioned for Math 0054. I'll demonstrate that in a moment. But I want to show you the nature of the type of interaction that is possible and fills me with a sense of great anticipation for the potential of these types of agents. So allow me to introduce you to Blue. Blue is a conversational AI that I made using Unreal Engine. And right now, I want you to understand that I'm going to face this microphone away from me so that I can speak into my computer mic so that Blue can understand me. Her role is that of an LTU student ambassador. So let's just interact and see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen. I just know what she's been trained on. If I ask her the same question on another day, she'll answer it differently, but the content of the message will remain the same. So let's see what happens. Hello there. You seem very friendly. My name is Ben. What is your name?
Hi. Hey there. Thank you so much for the kind words. I try my best to be friendly and approachable. How can I assist you today? Are you interested in learning more about Lawrence Technological University? Hey, Ben. It's so nice to meet you.
Okay, so sometimes they repeat themselves again because
I'm
it's a
Blue,
little
your
unpredictable.
cheerful student ambassador for Lawrence Technological University. I'm here to share all the exciting
That
things
can
about
happen.
LTU and help you with any
All this
questions
stuff can
you
be
might
tightened
have.
up.
So how can I make your day magical?
Okay, so she knows the context of be curious, make magic. So please elaborate on your role as a student ambassador for LTU.
Absolutely. I'd love to elaborate on my role as a student ambassador for Lawrence Technological University. As a student ambassador, I have the incredible opportunity to represent and promote my university, both on and off campus. I get to showcase the vibrant community, the exceptional academic programs, and the amazing campus life that we have at LTU.
She's fully trained on the LTU website and more.
My main goal is to be a helpful resource for prospective students, current students.
And
That can
anyone
happen
who
too.
wants to learn more about our university.
Sometimes we don't know when she's finished talking. We have to allow her to do that. So she's fully trained on the LTU website and can answer questions that are related to any publicly available information about LTU. I can ask her questions such as, can you help me with registration?
Of course, Ben. I'd be more than happy to help you with registration. Registering for classes is an important step in your journey at Lawrence Technological University.
I have to find out if she's finished talking, because sometimes she has to think.
And I'm here to guide you through the process.
Okay. Continue.
First, let's start
She's
by
not done
visiting
yet.
the official LTU website at ltu.edu.
All of this
There,
can be improved.
you'll find all the
all these
information you
delays.
need about registration, including important dates, course offerings, and step-by-step instructions. If you have any specific questions or need assistance with any part of the registration process, feel free to ask.
Okay, so let me ask her something that's pretty specific. I was told that I have an advising role. What is that?
Oh! An advising hold. That's an interesting term. Let me explain it to you, Ben.
She's looking it up.
An advising hold is a temporary restriction placed on your student account that prevents you from registering for courses until you meet with your academic advisor. It's actually a helpful measure to ensure that you receive proper guidance and support in selecting the right courses for your academic goals. Your advisor will review your academic progress, discuss your future plans, and provide recommendations for your class schedule. Once you've met with your advisor, they will remove the advising hold, allowing you to proceed with the registration process.
I'll ask her one more question, and then I'll move on to the other demonstration. Can you please tell me, what is a CRN?
Absolutely. I'd be happy to tell you what a CRN is, Ben. CRN stands for Course Reference Number. It's a unique 4-digit number assigned to each specific section of a course at Lawrence Technological University. Think of it as an identification code that helps you easily locate and register for the exact section of a course you want to take. When you're ready to register for classes, you'll
building
need to
numbers,
know the
locations
CRNs of the
for
specific
rooms,
sections you're interested in.
clubs, anything that you want to know that's publicly available on LTU. She can teach you about the history of this institution, whatever you ask her, as long as it's confined within her role as a student ambassador. And so that's just one example. This was just the test that I gave myself to see if I could do this at all, okay? This was the original prototype. So the next experiment was, could I make a tutor for a specific subject matter? And I have since made several. The first one that I tried was a virtual algebra tutor for Math 0054. And I like to make these plays on words, so I hope you get it. The name of this tutor is Dr. Math is Fun Again. Math is fun again. Even the AI understands the play on words, so if I comment on it, the AI will acknowledge it. But I'm going to try to put it through I'm going to play the role of the student who is struggling, and I'm going to ask it to help me practice learning something. So we're going to go into, let me make sure I'm in the right one. Yep. And this will just take but a moment to load. It won't take long. And by the way, the environment, I don't know if you noticed, the last one, did you see the campus background? I'm glad you did. And what I used to call as a kid the X building. I don't know what you call it. What's the name? The Providence building? Is that what that's called? That famous building on the Southfield skyline? I think it's called the Providence building, but that was in there too, and it's visible from our campus. Okay, so meet Dr. Mathis Funnigan. He might take a second to load his textures. Okay. No AI was used in the development of these environments. These were handmade, okay, including the previous one. The AI is in the training of the conversational element. So let me introduce myself. Hello there, my name is Ben. What is your name?
Greetings, Ben. I am Dr. Mattis Fanigan, an algebra tutor here at Lawrence Technological University.
Oh, his accent
How can I
changed.
assist you today?
He's usually British. I don't know why his accent Okay. Okay. So let me put him through something and see. The thing about this is, here is one area where you're going to see a shortcoming, but it's a temporary shortcoming that is not insurmountable. One thing about the language models that I'm using here is that they do not return information in standard format. Okay, for those of you who might have some background in computer science and advanced programming, if you've ever heard of a LaTeX parser, that is something that is a typesetting format that formats math equations into standard form and correct pronunciation. I have to write that by hand. That has not been implemented yet, and it's a non-trivial task. So he may mispronounce some things, but still, we're going to see what happens. Okay, I would like for you to give me an example of a linear equation with one variable. Allow me to solve it step by step with no help from you unless I ask for it. Do you understand?
Absolutely, I understand your request, Ben. I will provide you with an example of a linear equation with one variable, and I will guide you through the steps to solve it. Please let me know if you need any assistance along the way. Here's the equation, 2x plus psit وخريفنين. Now go ahead and solve it step by step, and feel free to ask for help if needed.
Okay. Please speak English.
Certainly, I apologize for the confusion. Let's break it down step by step. The given equation is 2x plus 5 over 11.
So
to begin solving it, we want to isolate the
now
x
he's
term
solving
on
it
one
for me.
side of the
I've got to
equation.
give him a better prompt.
First, let's get rid of
So
the
they're
constant term on
prompt
the left side of the equal sign by subtracting
Didn't want
5
him to
from
do
both
that.
sides. Duvau plus fam sabra.
Okay, so I'm going to start over. Okay. So we're going to try this again. Okay, we're going to try this again. Same experiment. Hello there, my name is Ben. What is your name?
No problem. My name is Dr. Mattes Fanigan.
Do you work here?
All right, let's break it down step.
Okay. This, I promise you, this will work. I promise. Hello, my name is Ben. What is your name?
Greetings, Ben. I am Dr. Mattes Fanigan, an algebra tutor here at Lawrence Technological University.
I can tell it's working
How
better
can I
already.
assist you today?
Okay, I would like to practice solving a linear equation with one variable. Please give me a practice problem and allow me to solve it step by step without your assistance unless I request it. Do you understand? I gotta write it down.
Absolutely, Ben. I understand your request. I will provide you with a linear equation to solve, and I will refrain from assisting you unless you explicitly ask for my help. Here's the problem. Tauis plus sau ya dawastes. Please take your time to solve it step by step,
Okay,
and let
I'm
me
not
know
gonna
if you
try in
need any
Spanish, I'll do it
assistance
in
along the
English.
way.
Okay, I would start by subtracting 5 from both sides of the equation.
That's correct, Ben. By subtracting 5 from both sides of the equation, you can eliminate the constant term on the left side. What do you get when you subtract 5 from both sides?
I get 3x equals 12.
Well done, Ben. You correctly
Math
eliminated the
genius.
plus 5 on the left-hand side of the equation. Now, we have 3x here, 12. Great job. Now, what would be your next step?
I'll do it wrong on the next example. I want to see if because sometimes I do it right and he tells me I'm wrong, and then I correct him and he apologizes. So let's see if that happens. So let's eliminate the leading coefficient on the left side of the equation by dividing both sides of the equation by 3.
Ah. I see where you're going with this, but I must correct you, Ben.
He thinks I got it wrong.
In order to eliminate the leading coefficient of 3 on the left-hand side, we actually need to divide both sides of
Exactly
the
what I
equation
said.
by 3. This will give us the correct value for x. Go ahead and divide both sides of the equation by 3 and tell me what you get.
Which is what I said I was going to do. But he needs to be tuned. The more I interact with him and the better his training gets, the more accurate his responses will be. I get x equals 4.
Excellent work, Ben. You have successfully solved the
Now let's see
linear
what
equation.
happens if I do it wrong.
By dividing both sides of the equation by 3, you correctly found that x equals 4. Your steps were precise and accurate,
My
and you
instructions
reached the
have to
right
be
solution.
very specific.
Well done. Remember, when solving linear equations, it's important to perform the same operation on both sides of the equality in order to maintain balance. By subtracting 5 from both sides and then dividing by 3, you followed the principles of algebraic manipulation correctly.
Now let me make a mistake. Let's try another practice problem of solving a linear equation with one variable. I would like to solve it myself step by step with no assistance from you all the way to the end unless I request help. You understand?
Apologies, I misunderstood your request earlier. I appreciate your determination to tackle the problem independently. I will remain silent and allow you to proceed with the entire process of solving the equation without any assistance from
Remember,
me unless you
I'm going to
explicitly
get it wrong
ask
on
for
purpose.
help. Please go ahead and continue with the next step.
I need a new linear equation with one variable to solve. I have to write it down.
Of course, Ben. Here's a new linear equation for you to solve. 2x, 3, or over 7. Take your time and work through the steps at your own pace. Remember, if you need any guidance or have questions, feel free to let me know. Good luck!
Don't forget to let me solve every step by myself. I have to tell him that.
I apologize, Ben. I understand your request, and I will adhere to it strictly. I will not provide any assistance or interrupt your process as you go step by step to solve the given equation. Feel free to take your time and let me know when you have reached a solution or if you would like me to check your progress.
Let's begin by adding 3 to both sides of the equation.
No problem, Ben. You may proceed with adding 3 to both sides of the equation. Remember to perform the same operation on both sides to maintain the equality. Take your time and let me know what you get after adding 3 to both sides.
I get 2x equals 10. Oh, I forgot to make a mistake.
All right, let's break it down step by step.
I'll try to make a new mistake.
By correctly adding 3 to both sides, you eliminated the 3
I'll
on the
make a
left
mistake
side
on this
and
next
obtained
part.
the 2x e powers 10. Great job! Now, what would be your next step?
Okay, here I'll make a mistake. I'll make a deliberate mistake. I would divide both sides of the equation by 3. That's wrong.
Actually, Ben, in this case, we need to divide both sides of the equation by 2, not 3. This is because we want to isolate the variable x, and dividing by 2 will give us the correct value. Please go ahead and divide both sides by 2 and let me know what you get.
Now I get 2x equals 5.
Fantastic work, Ben. By correctly dividing both sides of the equation by 2, you found that x equals 5.
Now he's an expert in all of mathematics, and he's trained in Wolfram Mathematica and Wolfram Alpha, among other sources. So I can request for this AI to answer things outside the domain of algebra if I'm just curious. So for example, he's still talking. I don't know, I don't know why we don't hear him anymore. I don't think I touched the volume. Okay. Will you turn it back up in a moment as soon as he finishes? Thank you. Okay. So now would be a good time. I would like to change the subject. Is that okay with you?
Of course, changing the subject is absolutely fine with me, as my role is to assist and support you in any way that you need.
So I'll ask him something
Please
from
feel
calculus.
free to let me know what topic you would like to discuss, and we can shift our focus accordingly.
Please provide an intuitive explanation for an infinitesimal as it applies to calculus.
An infinitive is a verb form that typically...
He can mishear you, okay? So let's do that again. It's mostly because of the environment we're in. Works better wearing headphones and just talking into the mic, but we'll work on that too. I would like to ask you a question outside of the realm of algebra, but it is within the realm of mathematics. Is that okay?
Of course.
Can you explain?
While my Please feel free to ask your question and let's see how we can explore it together. No problem. I'd be happy to explain. Let's break it down step by step.
Done talking. Please explain the concept of an infinitesimal as it applies to calculus.
The concept of an infinitesimal in calculus. It's quite fascinating. An infinitesimal is a mathematical concept that represents an infinitely small quantity. In calculus, we often use infinitesimals to describe the behavior of functions and their rates of change. Imagine you have a function, let's call it fi, and you want to understand how it changes as x gets closer and closer to a specific value, say a. An infinitesimal, denoted by dx, represents an incredibly small change in the value of x. It's so small that it's essentially zero, but not quite.
So that's an example of what I mean by a LaTeX parser, okay? It's not presenting it in the proper language. So anyway, all of those things can be addressed, and these are very early prototypes, but I see great potential in this. My intention is to extend their capabilities so that they're not merely conversational, but also have capabilities like navigating their environment, actually writing on the chalkboard, conducting experiments if necessary, depending on the context in which they're used. I've got lots more I would love to show you, but I'm limited on time. So would you like me to end the demonstration part here and leave time for some Q&A? Okay. Oh, we're finished?
Yes,
okay.
Thank you, Ben.
Okay, oh, that's right. I started at 10:45.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, come on up, CJ. As we get get the next presentation set up, Dr. Chung, just take the HDMI cable here. One of the things I talked about at the symposium last semester was that there's a whole new job being created called the prompt engineer. These are people, communications majors, they don't know programming, but they understand conversation, they understand words, they understand what it means to train an AI model, generative AI model. I see, Ben, I see this as being an opportunity to get a whole bunch of students from the tutoring center that could learn prompt engineering and just keep training that over semester projects, get it built up, ready to go. That'd be great for students with ESL. I mean, could you imagine? It's awesome. Thank you.
It learns through interaction.
Yeah. All right, ready, CJ?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, let's test the sound. hearing the music generated by generative AI. Hello, my name is CJ Chung, Professor of Computer Science. Robofest was founded 25 years ago, and my lab has 2 self-driving vehicles for research. I'd like to introduce generative AI and the fundamental technologies for creating generative AI called deep learning today. Oops. We talked about and we saw about all the, things generated by the artificial brain. So we talked a lot about text generation, and generative AI can generate music, computer programs, images, video, 3D models, and data sets, actually to train the brain itself. Today, I would be focusing on music, code, and image generations. So I'll first introduce some samples. Then I would like to talk about technologies behind generative AI. Then one specific techniques called dream booth algorithms. Then a practical tool for everyone, Adobe Photoshop Beta. Actually, Karl's using this Photoshop Beta today. Then hands-on introduction to deep learning and coding, which I use to teach Robofest K-12 students. Then I'll end with some review questions. Okay, so text to music. So I would like to recommend mubert.com, but you need to pay some fees. So I found this one, vid.io. So very simple interface. You just select a vibe, then enter a prompt. So I just entered, create a background music for assessment day presentations. Then it gave this music. As you heard before. Okay. Personally, I like it because royalty free if I use the music for background music for videos. Now I'd like to talk about code generation. Actually, you saw it this morning. So for example, I asked ChatGPT, write Python code to plot y equal to absolute x. Yes, it generates a perfect code in Python, which you can use it using different different tools to test. So I was using Google Colab, copy pasted, and it generated a perfect, graph. Now I'd like to talk about text to image generation tools. So you know about DALL-E. It's not for free. You can have 15 tokens per month. Midjourney is quite popular because it's a part of Discord, which young kids are using quite a lot. But it's hard to use it because busy all the time, so you need to pay some money to subscribe. But we have a nice tool, Adobe Firefly. So if you have a Lawrence Tech account, you can use this Firefly for free. So first I'll show some samples what DALL-E can produce. So my prompt was, a boy is playing with a lion. It generated something like that. Another sample was this realistic photo. I tried once more. It gave me something like that, something like this. But it was like not professional. If you use Adobe Firefly, yes, as I mentioned, if you go there, use Lawrence Tech's passwords, then you can use Firefly for free. So Firefly gave me this output. A boy is playing with a lion. It's like real. And also, if you use Adobe Firefly, yes, copyright was already covered, so you can use it professionally. Yeah, looks really, professional. Gave something like this graphics too. Now I'd like to talk about some fundamental technologies behind generative AI. So this is the definition of generative AI, a set of deep learning algorithms capable of generating seemingly new realistic content such as text, images, or audio from the training data. We have to train an artificial neural net by showing samples to generate outputs. This artificial neural net is very complex. It's like a huge optimization problem to find all the numbers between neurons, so-called weights. So in general, deep learning can be viewed as a brain-inspired deep neural networks learned from example data. And deep learning is a part of machine learning, and machine learning is a way in artificial intelligence to make systems more intelligent. And generative AI can be belonging in this category under machine learning. More technical details about generative AI. As I mentioned, it is fundamentally based on deep artificial neural nets modeling brains. Also, to consider sequential data, you need to introduce so-called RNN, recurrent neural networks. And as we always say, ChatGPT, GPT stands for generative, here, pre-trained T transformers with so-called attention mechanisms. So also, you saw many examples of fine-tuning. There are pre-trained networks already trained with millions of data. To customize for your need, you need to fine-tune. And lots of random numbers are used, actually, in deep learning. There are different types of generative models can like competing each other. Two different neural nets are competing each other until the equilibrium is met. Lots of random numbers are used. Nowadays, diffusion models are being used a lot, especially for image generation. The idea of diffusion model is training the neural net to make an image like a noise, then regenerate back to the original image using trained neural net. That's the diffusion model. But nowadays, interesting research is going on, not machine learning, but machine unlearning. It's like to teach how to forget. It's hard, actually, to forget something. So machine unlearning is the problem of forgetting data points or contributions to machine learning models input-output map. It's not like just deleting. You have to, when you delete something to make the system forget something, you have to change all the parameter values. Why unlearning is necessary? Any idea? Yes? Lawsuit. That's true. Yes, privacy issues. Yeah. Trained neural net contains a lot of private information, patent information. If they sue us, trained network, we have to do something to delete, to forget. Now, as I mentioned, yes, a specific algorithm by Google called Dream Booth is becoming very popular recently, and this is fine-tuning text-to-image diffusion models. Yeah, sure. Sorry, yeah. Okay, so without Dream Booth, LTU, if I ask LTU Blue Devil is playing with a lion, this is from DALL-E, because DALL-E doesn't know about LTU's Blue Devils. I asked Firefly, LTU Blue Devil is playing with a lion. It gave something like that. And if you use Dream Booth, yes. This is the Python program I was running to train Blue Devil, to fine-tune Blue Devil, and Dream Booth was generating this. How can you do that? I first introduced about 22 pictures of Blue Devils. Then, this is the pre-trained model, applied Dream Booth algorithm. It generates fine-tuned model with Blue Devil. Using this fine-tuned model, I gave the prompt. I named Blue Devil as a kind of unique identifier like BLDVL. BLDVL is playing with a lion, and it generated this output. I tried it with my pictures. My ID was CJCH. Dream Booth generates that. CJCH, me, is playing with a lion. Can you guess what I got? I love it. I'll post it on Facebook, that. And yes, I like this. Looks like real. And I'd like to introduce a kind of tool for you to use, Photoshop Generative Fill. So you can download it. And what I did was, yes, my selfie picture, but my finger's blocking me. So what I did was, using this generative fill feature, automatically or half of myself is generated, and extend the picture, and I asked by giving the prompt like, show a window with C. Then it generated some realistic picture like that. So yes, download Photoshop beta version, and you can do this quite easily. And agenda today, how many minutes do I have?
You're finished.
One
more minute. Go ahead, go finish it up.
Yeah. So anyway, so this is what an example of one of the best ways to learn deep learning concepts. So I'm using this way. I train a teachable machine to create a trained model, and we use Scratch. I mean, you can use other languages like Python, but for children, I use Scratch, how to connect your program to the brain and use the brain to develop a game. I wish I could demonstrate, but I couldn't do that. But you have an opportunity. I plan a workshop for everyone on Saturday, October 7th. If you are interested in creating this game using deep learning, please join. Send me an email. And I will review questions. I asked this to my wife, which is my real photo. It took more than 1 minute for her to find a real picture. Yeah, 6 is, yeah. Okay, yeah. Pass wrong. Don't believe generative AI. I have 6 fingers.
Thank you, CJ. Wish we had more time. Okay, so now we're going to set up for the panel. Can someone come down and help us set up the table? While we set up the table, I want to show you this prompt here that you can use. Now, if you want to ask a question, I'll be the moderator. We're going to set up the table. Come on, and would you guys mind? I think the table. Can one of you guys from up there help us set up the table and the mics, please? But feel free. I got like 10 minutes of degrees of freedom built in. I had it scheduled to end at 12:20, so we're okay. Use this time now. You can go to pollev.com/LTU932, or you can use your phone and send a text to the text is going to 37607, and then you type in LTU1932, and we'll start seeing your questions here, but then we're going to turn off the screen and turn off the projector, raise the screen, and then we'll have our panel. So I'm going to help set up this panel now, so just give us a few minutes, but go ahead and start asking us some questions for 2 or 3 minutes, please. So as we get this, let me introduce the panel, folks. Over here on stage left is Jeff Lemmer. Say hi to Jeff, you guys. Jeff is on the board of trustees for Lawrence Tech, and Jeff is a former CIO of Ford Motor Company, and he's really plugged into this. So we're really grateful that you joined us today, Jeff. Thank you. Over here on the closest to stage left on stage right is Julia Kiernan from Humanities, Social Sciences, and Communication. And also from HSSC is Hamad Al-Azary, Psychology. And then Dean Daubman. Yay! And then Provost Heist will join us. So far, we have a couple questions coming in. I thank you for posting those. Again, I will moderate the questions. Yeah, and we're going to have some prepared opening remarks from each person. So why don't we start with you, Jeff? Okay, here we go, folks. We're going to start our panel discussion right now. Well, I'm going to give the handheld mic. Jeff's going to do some opening remarks.
Great. Thanks so much for having me here today. So again, my name's Jeff Lemmer. I was the former CIO at Ford Motor Company. Since retiring, I've taken on an advisory role with a set of companies. I thought I'd share a little story with you about AI and the history. So I graduated from Lawrence Tech in 1987 with a degree in math computer science. Was recruited on campus through career services and was hired by Ford Motor Company. Spent almost 34 years there. So I remember this this classroom, this auditorium, and everything looks exactly the same. So, you know, AI is interesting for me because if you look back in the history, it actually goes back to the 1950s. And my first exposure to AI actually occurred at Ford Motor Company. And so early on in my career, I worked on a project with a group of colleagues, and we were actually recognized in the second annual conference for innovative applications of AI. And today, I think it's the 37th. So it's pretty ironic to see, you know, my career and to be back here today and talking to you about a very interesting topic. So thanks for having me.
Hi, I'm Kiernan in Humanities, Social Science, and Communication. And I am actually using generative AI in the classroom, but it's text-based. So what I'm using is ChatGPT Plus and Claude 2. And we're using it in the second half of the semester. But pedagogically, what I'm interested in specifically is how this changes the classroom. And I think what we're going to see is that, as the keynote talked about, we're going to be seeing flipped classrooms and active learning take center stage. But the other thing that I want to caution us is part of the active learning experience is peer learning and peer engagement. And research shows that Generation Z and Generation Alpha, which are, you know, our current and upcoming students, they crave peer interaction. They want to work with people. So I think we need to think about ways to bring generative AI and people together rather than separating them out. Finally, I just want to think about the cautions and us be aware of both the biasness in the tool and the flattening effect of using the tool. We need to think about where this information is coming from, who are the primary users of the internet, and who are the primary text generators to date. Thanks.
Hello, everybody. I'm Hamad Al-Azary. I'm an assistant professor of psychology. My main area is on cognitive psychology and psycholinguistics. So naturally, I'm very interested in large language models, and I'm interested in the algorithms of the models, the algorithms in the human mind, and if we can learn anything about human cognition from using these AI tools. So that's my main kind of use of AI, and I'm interested in the questions it raises about if it's artificial intelligence, what does it tell us about natural intelligence and the distinction between the two? Thank you.
I'll hand it over. I already had a chance to present some ideas.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank everybody for being here. We're on the edge of a significant revolution in how we're going to not only learn, but how we're going to communicate information, and how we're going to do research, and how we're actually going to live in this academic world that we're all members of. So it's nascent. It's at the beginning. It's a little on the rough side, as you've seen from some of our examples, but the potential where we can go and how quickly we're going to get there is just amazing to me. I mean, look what all that's happened. Karl showed that graph about those 1 million likes, or the ChatGPT got there so fast, or 100 million, and in no time at all. And that time period is going to collapse as we go forward. And the things that Ben showed, we're going to see that more and more. And being technologically focused, as this institution is, we kind of need to be leading that wave. And that's what all of this is about, is to help us get immersed, help us get moved in this particular direction. So why don't we continue?
Okay, so first question to Jeff. So you saw a presentation by, I don't know if these mics working?
Are these working? All right, I think it's working.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Yep.
So that's great. Okay. So we saw a presentation from Dan Radomski from Centrepolis. Your experience as a former CIO of Ford and somebody who is on our board of trustees at Lawrence Tech, what should we be doing in addition to what we're doing today? We're starting the conversation on generative AI. Some of our faculty are experimenting with it, are doing research on it. Some of our faculty are learning about it. But what do you see as where we should be heading to prepare our learners to embrace a workplace where this is going to be common?
You know, I think, you know, as we talked about, the acceleration is going to be so fast. The slowest pace of change is what you see today, because it's going to accelerate from here. So I think first and foremost, embrace it. You know, embrace the opportunities and what might be possible for you to look at how you've traditionally done things and how you can operate differently. Some of the biggest challenges, I think, with new technologies are cultural change, and that's really important. I was just spending some time with any NASCAR fans here? Right. Yeah. So I was just 2 weeks ago, I was down spending some time with one of the NASCAR teams, and the team's really struggling this year. And I asked them, I'm like, why are you guys struggling? And as I peeled back the layers, he gave some very simple applications of how some of the teams were leveraging AI to become more competitive. So that's how fast this curve is moving. But I'd really challenge you. But they were struggling because they had cultural challenges. A lot of the members of the team kind of were historical and not advancing at the pace. So again, I'd really challenge you to look at things from a different perspective and look for ways. Because when your students go into industry in 5 years, these solutions are going to be pretty pervasive. You know, you talked about some of the enterprise applications. These tools are going to be embedded into those. Microsoft's working on something called Microsoft CoPilot. Those are going to be pretty pervasive in the industry.
Thank you. Question to Julia. So faculty are concerned about intellectual stagnation. Some faculty have described concerns that the use of generative AI, such as ChatGPT, in writing classes is going to destroy writing among our learners. What are your thoughts on that? Are you in the camp of when Dr. Mollick showed us those three options of banning AI, of finding ways to integrate it, or of actually embracing it? And what recommendations do you have from the perspective of a leader in this area from our whole Humanities, Social Sciences, and Communication department, which is where we get our core curriculum in the communication area?
Okay, you can hear me? No. Apparently I'm tall. Okay, there. So I think we need to be purposeful, intentional, and thoughtful, and we need to be iterative. You were talking about iteration earlier. If we're assigning writing the right way, and of course I'm coming at this from text-based, word-based, not image-based. If we're assigning writing the right way, it means we're taking students through a process which is iterative. They need to come up with ideas. Maybe they're going to collaborate with a text AI generator. Maybe they're not. But we're not just looking at the final product. It's the process that is equally as important. And if we can't see, just like in math, if we can't see the process, it doesn't matter what the end result is as far as I'm concerned as a teacher. So what we need to do is maybe rethink our pedagogical approaches. I know in most writing classes, we take a process approach anyway. So we're not just seeing a final product. We're seeing 5 or 6 versions of that before it's passed in. It doesn't mean we're necessarily grading those 5 or 6 versions, but we're seeing them, we're getting peer feedback. That said, I lost my idea. But part of that, to go back, is this kind of peer one-on-one experience. And if we're not seeing the process, I think in anything, if the students aren't generating some level of frustration they're not learning. We need to be frustrated to be active learners, and if we get to the end result too quickly, if we don't go back and look at how we got there, then we're not helping students in the long run because we're not helping them with problem solving. We're not helping them with critical thinking.
Great, thank you. Hamad, I think this question might be relevant to you, given your area of psychology. I know your specialty is cognitive psychology, and you understand, I think, some of the logic behind a large language model. And CJ gave us, where's CJ? CJ talked to us at the end about how the challenge is machine unlearning. So these language models, they're being trained on input. What is involved, or what are some of the dynamics behind if the training is faulty, or if we want it to go in another direction?
So I think there's two things you asked there. One is about how they're trained, and then why would they need to unlearn anything? So how they're trained, and I'll just talk about the large language models. So they're called large because the input data is really, really big, terabytes and terabytes of data, which is about 4 or 5 times, some estimates say, the amount of data that a child has. So the way that a child learns language is very different than how these large language models learn language. A child will have sensory motor experience, they're going to have social interactions, they're going to have those experiences, and then they get to learn the meanings of words in those kinds of contexts. Large language models will just have all of this unstructured data, and it's more than you could even imagine, right? So that's one big difference between them. And part of the reason they get faulty is because they're using this predictive nature of language. When we use language, we are constructing some predictions of what's going to happen next, right? So if I say, in my coffee, I like cream, and you already know the word. So what these models are doing is they're predicting things, and sometimes they'll make faulty predictions, which are called hallucinations, right? So in terms of fixing them, there are, as CJ talked about, fine-tuning. You can fine-tune them on particular things. In terms of memory and forgetting, why human beings forget is a very different kind of reason for why these models might have a hard time with something. Why we forget is because we need to update our memories, right? So if you get a new phone number, you need to forget your old phone number and then use your new phone number. For a model, it doesn't really have those kinds of constraints on its memory. So that's another big distinction between how it performs and then how a human being would perform. And just to follow up on what Julia was saying, I think it helps students to know that we call these things intelligent, okay? And that's fine if you want to use that term loosely, but it's a very different kind of intelligence than we see in the natural world. So students should always feel that they themselves are intelligent and that they can use these things intelligently, which is what Provost Heist suggested. Using these models intelligently is something that students should feel that they're capable of doing.
Great, thank you. By the way, I'm going to keep circling back around. Everybody's going to have a couple of questions. Karl, on to you. I think this is relevant for what you were sharing with Sara with the AI-generated images. What do you, and maybe you don't know, but what are or what should be the best practices for acknowledging that content has been generated by AI? I've been reading that the discussion among Google and Facebook and the advertisers is about having embedded watermarks that you can't see, but if you look more deeper, you'll see that it was a generated image. But what is your knowledge on that?
I mean, I guess one thing is my knowledge, the other is my opinion.
Sure.
I guess for a long time we've been, if I make the analogy of using software, we don't ask our students to disclose whether they used AutoCAD, Revit, Photoshop, any slew of different types of software. And so I guess my hope would be that we would continue to use iterative models, hybrid models, other types of things. So it's not just one thing. Even in the way that Julia was talking about text, it's a process. It's back and forth. And so I think I don't know, we're in its infancy for sure. And of course, we're asking our students to declare their use of it. At a certain point, it's like, did you use the internet? Would be a silly question to ask a student on a research assignment, right?
Exactly.
I think the upscaling or the opportunities we have, or the way that this might amplify some of the things, I was struck by an example that you shared in terms of generating an assignment. I think we can there's maybe a low-level application of that it speeds up our time. The other thing is that we're talking about, from a pedagogical perspective, why couldn't I use that to give each student a different customized assignment to what they're doing, right? And I think that's, as we were talking about these things on assessment day, it's that opportunity to be able to leverage the speed that we can do that, but then the ability to engage our students in different areas, different topics. You know, is the case study that they're reading something that's relevant to something that they answered on the first day of class in terms of an introductory survey or something like that, right?
That's a great response. And just so that you folks know, all you have to do to get another response, because it's basically generating new content, is you just say, do it again, try again, give me another assignment. In the span of 5 minutes, you could have generated 30 different questions per student. That's a great example. Thank you, Karl. Provost Heist.
Wait a minute,
Yes, sir. Go ahead,
let
please.
me just make a
Sure.
comment, a couple of things that either have occurred to me or are bothering me. First of all, what's interesting in this paradigm that we're beginning to be exposed to is in a sense the randomness that's involved. I've listened to what Ben was showing us a number of times, and I've never experienced this language issue, the coming on in Spanish or whatever. So the thing in a way has a mind of its own. I mean, so it is interesting that there is this human character to it. So I find that to be curious, and it's something that we'll have to deal with. Another thing that has concerned me a bit, and it relates to what Julia was saying, was that there is this process with teaching students or helping to coach students how to write, right? And there is something important in being able to write that first draft. Now, one of our advantages that we've made use of is we get around having to write that first draft by let AI do it, and then we fine-tune it and adjust it so that it's ours and it accomplishes our purpose. But we've already experienced that process of that first draft, whereas the students haven't necessarily done that. So I think that is a concern that at some point will be addressed, I expect, but it is a concern. And the last thing is this prompt business. The more I listen to this business about prompts and making prompts and how important it is to really craft your prompt in such a way as that you can extract the information that you want, it's meaningful. It actually, if all these students are going to be using this sort of technology, they're going to have to learn how to interact and how to make their thoughts known and how to intelligently ask questions, which is what they need to do when they interact with any one of us. So I think this whole prompt business is actually a lot bigger deal than it even may be appearing to us right now. So just something to think about.
Yeah, just to add on to that, the whole concept of prompt engineering, you're seeing more and more companies pay attention to that, and also some products that are starting to evolve very early on around how to create more effective prompts to get the most out of the model. So I agree.
I have to also add that I'm trying to not use the term prompt engineering, especially in a context where we tend to be outnumbered by engineers.
Yes.
An engineering mindset might be one that leads to optimization. I think the right prompt can return some things that you weren't aware of.
Yep.
And so there's prompt, I'm okay with prompt craft. Prompt artistry might go one level further.
Well, it's often, years ago, when we were part of the ongoing computer revolution back in the 70s and the 80s with the advent of the microprocessor. I mean, that was a revolution too, just like this is. This is a revolution. You guys are being part of a revolution right now. But there was a big issue about programming. It's really an art.
It's not a, so it's sounding more and more to me like this prompt issue is more of an art form, and it has to be honed and purified and really crafted, and that's going to require creative thought, I hope, and the building of that in the minds of our students as well as in our own minds as well.
There's been a discussion by the Mollicks. You guys met Lilach, her spouse is Ethan Mollick from Wharton Interactive. They've been suggesting that we're hyping the prompts because you can ask the generative AI to tell you what you should ask it.
But just to respond, think about what the data is based on that the prompts are coming from, right? A prompt is going to be different from people. We're all intersectional humans with different backgrounds and different life experiences, and the internet isn't necessarily that background. So we need to think about the prompts both in terms of who's creating the prompts, why they're creating the prompts, and who our audience is. And the audience of who is behind the algorithms and who is using the internet and putting information onto the web is not necessarily the same as who our students are.
And I would add with that, what's interesting when you start interacting with it, it's very inclusive. The language it's generating a very inclusive response.
Yeah, but I don't think the data that it's based on is necessarily inclusive. So we really need to think about the flattening effects of the generative AI.
Certainly with 3.5, which was then optimized a bit more with 4.0, I agree 100%. With Ben's demonstration with the tutor, if you think about, I don't know if you've explored what Khan Academy is doing. They're leveraging generative AI to really create a tutoring model that does not provide answers. You ask the generative AI for a solution, it doesn't give you the solution. It keeps prompting the student. The AI is prompting the student to generate critical thinking. But this leads to something, Jeff, I'd be curious, your thoughts as our trustee, Provost Heist. Are we falling into a future of lights out education, right? We talk about lights out manufacturing. If you don't know what that is, that's robotics, AI. The human is very disengaged. Lights out to the human. Is that something that we are interested in at Lawrence Tech?
I mean, I think the human interaction is still going to be one of the most critical elements, right? I think, you know, in some respects, we're seeing that in terms of the return to work, where the direct one-to-one human interaction becomes so critical. So I don't think we're going to evolve to that point. I mean, who knows what the future will hold, but we've got a long journey to go and a lot of value that we can extract from this technology as we go along it. So the other point I would make is ask your students, how are they using this technology to learn? What are they hearing from their friends? How are they using it? It's pretty interesting. I've asked some friends that I would have thought never would have explored technology like this. I had never had technology conversations with them. And they're like, I love AI. And you start to learn how they're starting to leverage it. We've really kind of consumerized this technology, but it's a great, interesting conversation to have.
So what I'd like to do now, since we are kind of ending this panel and we're going to have a few more just brief announcement presentations from our colleagues, I'd ask you all to make a few sort of summative points as we wrap up the panel. That's okay. We could start with whoever wants to go first.
Okay. Switch it up. I just thinking of these comments about lights out and what everybody's thinking, losing jobs and what. The thing is, I can see a time when the educational process is kind of like what you would see on Star Trek, you know, with those incredible. But the fact is, ever since the dawn of mankind, we, as a collective entity, have been social. And we're going to be social into the extremes of the future. So there's always going to be this social element, even though portions of it may change. The dark manufacturing, lights out manufacturing, for example,
I can see a process totally controlled and absent of human beings, right? But in terms of education, not so much so, but it is possible that we'll go in that direction. But something will have to replace it. We're social, it's in our DNA, and so that's gonna have to be there. It's just that it will evolve and iterate over time and will assume a different form. You're not gonna get away from this. This is here to stay. This is the beginning of a revolution. It's one of a number of most of us, at least at my age, have lived through. And so we need to use it and define it and actually profit by it.
I guess I've made a career of finding ways of using and misusing technology, and I believe it's quite malleable. And I've seen examples, you know, us using our Sara in my class this summer to be able to engage colleagues from arts and science through a topic. I've seen people use AI in the way that Jeff was talking about, loving it because it allows them to produce images in a way that they never had those skills before. And I was at a retreat this weekend with a group of architects of many generations around a campfire. And one of the themes that came up is that both because of remote work, our students, when they end up in the workplace, don't have mentorship because they maybe don't have those opportunities there. And one of the concerns that a young architect talked about was a fear of, or an inability to access the principal in the firm, to ask questions of them. And the idea around AI, at least with this group, was like, is there an intermediary or someone, when someone's not available, you can start the interaction. So it just gets you to a level of competence so that you can ask a better question of the person when you have the time with them. And I thought that was a really insightful and beautiful notion of being able to use that technology, but again, trying to like find ways to make us more human instead of a fear that's driving everything that's making us less human. I think every time an automated car crashes into something, we're like, aha. We don't talk about all the other times that humans are driving into other humans all day long, right? Driving on M10 to get here is a death-defying thing, and those are all people that are driving and texting and smoking, who knows what, and any number of things that are going on. And so we really have to think about these things and allow us to do maybe more of what we want or find better ways to do some of the things that we're doing.
I like that I think you mentioned the interdisciplinary perspective. I think that's what this is going to help too. Folks from across disciplines have more opportunity to communicate with each other if there's areas that they don't understand. That's a big part of our going forward is this interdisciplinary approach. So thank you so much. Hamad, you want to go next?
Yeah, I think, you know, when you look at AI, there's a wide array of responses to it, right? So in the general public, in the media, everybody's kind of dazzled by it, right? And then they say AI's taking over, you know, it has its own, you know, it's going to be it's going to have its own consciousness and things like that. In the cognitive science world, there's a lot of debate about if it works the way that we think it works, or if we're kind of seeing things in it that we expect to see, and things like that. So I think, you know, as educators, we should kind of be aware of this kind of array of opinions, and our students are probably going to be more on they're dazzled by it kind of, you know, side. And I think what we can do as academics and researchers and educators is to bring in a healthy kind of criticism and skepticism of how these things work. And then that way students can learn about their limits and then also ways to improve them, because they have a long way to go. You can find any research papers that show you they have a lot of flaws. Sometimes they make very silly errors that you wouldn't expect them to make because of these hallucinations, or they'll flip languages like you were saying earlier. That's a very strange kind of, I don't know if I would call that intelligent, right? To just change languages in the middle of a sentence. So they do make a lot of these errors, and then that's where I think students and us as educators can kind of understand why they do that, and then take it from there and go forward.
Thank you. Julia.
Okay, so we're all learning together, I guess, and I think one of the things we need to do with that is ask our students, right, as you said a few minutes ago. But I would ask your students what they find frustrating, what they don't like, what they find problematic, and work through that together, because everybody's going to have both similar and different experiences, and unless we're actually talking to students about how they want to use it or how they see it as useful to their own learning, we're not really going to understand right away because the research isn't going to come out. When I told my class this semester we were going to be using 2 different generative platforms, I was very surprised with the pushback I got, and I just expected a totally different answer. So if I hadn't, even brought up that as a point of discussion, how would I have known? So I think one of the important things is not just getting them to use it, getting them to reflect on how they use it and the process and where the shortcomings are, but also what the affordances are.
Thank you, Julie.
What was the pushback? Was it using one over another, or using
No,
it at
it
all?
was more so like I think they were super nervous and they didn't understand how it was going to work in the class. So part of the assignment is that final assignment is they're going to be using it, but they also need to do a presentation on how they felt throughout that, kind of a narrative of their own journey, I guess.
Great. I mentioned at the start how this is kind of a little bit of a full circle moment for me. Having gone to school here, gone through a full career, and now I'm back talking about a topic that's, I think, just fascinating. And anytime a technology comes along, there's always challenges, and there certainly will be a lot of hurdles ahead for this technology. I guess the comment I would make and a request of you is look for opportunities for you to leverage this technology to be more effective. At the end of the day, you have a huge opportunity to influence the next set of workers that are going to be out there in the industry, and hopefully one day they can be up here too talking about what they learned and their learning journey. So look for opportunities to help plant the seeds for them leveraging AI in the future. So thanks.
Thank you to our panel. Jeff Lemmer, Board of Trustees, Julia Kiernan, HSSC, Hamad Al-Azary, Karl Daubman, Richard Heist. So thank you, folks. We're going to be done with the panel. And if you would could you folks just help me slide that back? So we're going to roll the screen down. While we do that, Kevin, we're going to just have a few announcements and then we'll break for lunch. If you didn't get a lunch coupon for me, you can't have lunch. Just kidding. Just go down there. We'll give them out if you didn't get one. We're having lunch in the cafeteria and we're done here at about 12:30. Kevin, so here's what's next. Kevin's going to give us an update on philanthropy. Jackie and Ty and our 2 folks from athletics will give us an update on student athletes. Very important that we understand the perspective of where we're at with supporting our student athletes because they make up about 1/3 of our student population, in some colleges even more. Like in business, about 80% of our students are athletes. And then an update from Karen Reed-Hendon, DEI workshop. And then I think we're done. Okay, Kevin.
Thank you, Matt. You'll see in your email today that you received a video from Dr. Soap and I guess myself as well, kicking off the faculty and staff campaign. So every year we do a campaign where we generate money to give back to our students. Last year, due to your generosity and our colleagues across campus, we were able to put aside $100,000 it's like $102,000 to be exact, but it's money that's being back to help students that had a balance and couldn't register, to help them scholarships, helping students with books. And our clinical counselors helping our students that sometimes don't have the money for medicine. So we got that all in place because of your efforts last year. And we want to continue to add to that so that we don't see students dropping out because of a small gap in their payments. Sometimes it's as small as $1,500 that can stop a student from registering. And so with the money we received last year, we're able to redistribute that and help those students. And I thank you for that help. And if you have any questions about the campaign, yes. So what we did is we put it in the financial aid offices to begin with. So the people who are directly working with them when they are, coming in crisis mode. We also put it in the clinical counseling, gave them a part of the budget because they see the students that have the different mental health needs, medicines. Dean of Students Office as well, so Joe Baldwin. And then also with some people in a couple other departments that we know service students at the ground level. We took it out of being a committee too. That way it can get quickly done. So if a student has a need for books, they're not requesting it to a committee, waiting a week for a decision. As you know, a week without a book can be devastating to a student in the classroom, fall behind in their studies and so on. So we're trying to make it where it's really quick and efficient, and we appreciate your support with that, and we're going to continue working on that. Yes? Yeah. Send them to the financial aid office for sure. And if for some reason they get a little bit lost in the shuffle, call me up, and I'll make sure they get connected as well. Yep. All right.
Thank you, Kevin.
See, I don't always speak long, Richard.
No. Thank you, Kevin. And I just want to come on up, Jackie and Ty, and Marianne Meltzer and Josh Pickens. Yay! How are you? Great. Thanks for having me. Oh, absolutely. So we got your presentation here. If you guys want to flip through it, here you go. You can use this. There you go. Here, just use this as the mic.
Actually, I'm gonna let you flip through.
So let's introduce.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Thank you guys for having us. I am Marianne Meltzer. I am the new appointed Director of Athletics here at LTU. Last year, I think I was in front of you guys, and I was actually the women's lacrosse coach as well as the associate AD. I do want to introduce you, or I'll let him introduce you. I'm in the process of putting my leadership team together, and this was my #1 hire, so I'm going to let him introduce you.
Thank you. One of the few poor decisions she's made was making me her #1 hire. No, I'm kidding. I'm Josh Pickens, men's basketball coach, associate athletic director. Just here to help assist with our student athletes and help any way we can.
And I think most of you know Ty and Jackie. Anyway, I wanted to just kind of give you an update on athletics and where we are with enrollment, some of the initiatives programs we're putting into place. This is kind of my leadership team right now. Kind of gives you an overall. I have Karl is our admin. Patrick, we just hired a new communication specialist. Josh, Andrew, who handles all our game management stuff. Marluce is someone I just recently hired to handle our student athlete welfare and development. And I'll go into more detail with her role in a little bit. And then we have Ty and Jackie. All right, this is kind of where we are with enrollment with the different colleges. If you look at our total athletes, right now we're at 753. That is literally 30% of our undergraduate here at LTU. So it's really important that we all work together because our main goal is we want to retain these athletes and these students. It only benefits all of us. And that's one of our focuses this year is retention. A program we're putting into place is we're adding an academic support unit, which Marluce will oversee. And we were going to be working with our at-risk student athletes, or academically at-risk student athletes. Also, we have partnered with the library, the AAC, and the Writing Center. We developed a program called the Game Plan. They are meeting with some of our students, mainly football, on Monday nights. We're looking for student athletes looking for help with their writing, math. Seems to be a lot of math, correct? Math and science. So we are trying to put in some programs in place to help these student athletes and give them the opportunity to, we want them to be successful not only in the classroom, not only on the field, but definitely in the classroom. Some of the things that, some of our highlights, obviously, we wouldn't be here if it weren't for Scott Trudeau. He's been here for 20 years, and now he's moving in to work with Kevin in philanthropy. Our overall student athlete GPA last year was 3.21. So 28 of our 32 sports were 3.0 or above. And the 4 that were below were 2.79 and above. Overall, LTA we earned the NAI 5-star gold level, a Champions of Character Award, which takes into consideration the 5 core values of the NAIA. October 23rd, we are relaunching our Hall of Fame again. We kind of took a couple of years off due to COVID and stuff. We have 5 inductees coming in on October 6th. And then we achieved 2 NAI national champions this year, first time ever. Men's bowling and women's lacrosse, which was awesome. Many of you guys were at the Women's Lacrosse Championships, and we can't thank you enough for all your support. We had numerous all-academic NAIA scholar athletes, as well as conference scholar athletes. We need to put that list together. It's an extensive list, so we're very fortunate. This summer, we installed a brand new basketball court. We're looking to add a new softball field, and that'll open in 2025. Like I said, I hired an assistant AD for student welfare and development to work with academically at-risk student athletes. Again, talked about the game plan with the library and working with Dr. Stavros on the athletic department strategic plan. So that was one of my first initiatives, was to getting the department together. We've never really had a strategic plan, so she's helping us guide us through the process. Any questions?
Well, thank you, folks, and two other folks up here we didn't get a chance to introduce. I just want to make sure you're aware. We got Dr. Stavros from Business and Ty Faulkner from Arts and Sciences. These two folks are working really hard at student athletic success. And it might not have been clear what they're actually doing, but they're running Sunday workshops. Now, yes, they're getting a stipend to do that, but they're coming into work Sunday, and they are helping our athletes get engaged and supporting Marianne Melser and Josh. So thank you all, and thanks for this time to allow an update from Athletics and Assessment Day. Thank you so much. Thanks. Karen, you want to? This is it, folks, the last thing, and then we break for lunch, and I appreciate your patience, and I'm going to go ahead. Did you want to set this up? There, great. Here we go. Let me help you.
Oh, okay.
Did you want to look at that?
I do, yeah. Unless you want to just follow me around as I
can do that.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so as you all know, so many of you may not know me at all. I'm just now realizing this. So I'm Karen Reed-Hendon. I serve as your Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. If you can believe it, next month it'll be 3 years. I know. I know. That means I'm a toddler and I'm dangerous. So that's really, really, really exciting. Really exciting. So there are a couple of things that I know that were important to make sure that I enforced or shared with all of you so that you all are aware. One is that we have professional development opportunities out of our office. And I don't think everyone really knows that we have professional development opportunities that are in our office. This year, we will be doing a LGBTQ climate survey for our students. So that will be happening very soon. We also encourage you to please participate in some of the programs that we have. One of the things that I think that my office is really successful at is collaboration. And one of our favorite collaborating offices that we like to work with is none other than our library. And our library team, they're just amazing, amazing individuals. So we have the Human Library, which takes place in November. And the Great Michigan Read. I know that we have a new book. I have not read it yet, but I hear it's amazing. So we're going to see what happens with that. We also have a number of articles and lectures that are uploaded to both Canvas and the ODEI website. And I don't think people know that either, but all of that information is there. And we actually do a lot of faculty workshops for you. So if you've ever been in a workshop of mine, raise your hand. It is literally like in the middle. We've done a lot. So I will be bringing back anti-racism and universal design. So that was one of the first ones that I've done. And it was actually really very good and talked a lot about how we can be more engaged with our students and all of their lived experiences so that they can use that to help them to do the good things that they can do. We'll be starting Courageous Conversations this year, doing a 3-part workshop in the spring over emotional intelligence. We're going to talk about pronouns, We are going to talk about stereotype, threat, and bias, and of course, everyone's favorite, team communication and dynamics. I just recently had that one not too long ago, and well, I'm pretty sure that those students are still weeping from those conversations regarding how we communicate. For those of you that don't know, my office also has a strategic plan. So if anything with a strategic plan, I am all about making sure that it works its way into everything that it is that we do. And one of the main things that is coming out of it for myself is making sure that all of you as faculty have ways in which you can support our office. So one of the ways that we're doing that is that we have created the Jedi Council of Champions. That's right, Jedi Council of Champions. Jedi standing for Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. And this is a strategic initiative that is for faculty and staff to get more engaged in the office so that we have diversity champions across campus, and you all can help us with supporting a lot of the work that only myself and Eula are actually doing. So if you've ever wondered how things are getting done, we don't know either. We just know that we're getting it done. But we also understand that it takes more than just the two of us to get it. It takes everybody in this room to do it. So some things that we hope that you have, I mean, after all, we are all here together. We, number one, hope that you have an open mind, that you have empathy, commitment, listening skills, which I know that is probably the hardest one for some of us at some times, creativity and vision, self-awareness, leadership, and advocacy. And the champions, these are the individuals that we are looking to help to co-host events with us, to provide word of mouth to their students, to their staff about events that we have, seek ways to promote and celebrate much of the really rich cultural diversity that we have here at the institution. We really have quite a bit. And also making sure that you're helping us with making sure that we are also connecting to other future champions on this campus. Because who doesn't want to be a champion? I know no one that doesn't want to be a champion. And most importantly, making sure that we're doing all that we're supposed to do to implement and critique our own strategic plan. Sometimes with strategic plans, we put so much work into them that to get them done is, you know, an Olympic-sized feat. But then when it's time to actually do the pieces, no one really wants to do that anymore, because didn't we do that with creating the strategic plan, right? But in this instance, I am looking for individuals that are willing to take those pieces that they know that they can do so that we can see all of those things work together in tandem so that we can move us in the direction that we're looking to go. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and land my plane. After all, I am standing between you and lunch. So thank you, everyone, and have a great afternoon.
Thanks, Karen. So we're done. Just wrap it up. I want to thank all of you. We appreciate you. I appreciate the faculty. All of you are all colleagues. You are changing lives with your students. And that's number one. I want to give big props to the people behind the scenes you don't know who run the sound and the video, Norm and Sam and Anthony. Thank you so much. Thank you to Provost Heist, President Sobe, Jeff Lemmer, folks coming to join us, all the deans, and all of you. And listen, have a great lunch. Please keep the discussion going. I'm going to send out a post-generative AI survey, and we'll keep it going. And some of you had identified you wanted to engage in workshops. We're going to find ways to get some Gen I workshops going. So enjoy lunch. If you didn't get a certificate, it'll be at the door in the cafeteria. Just go. Sure.
Hi, Sam, am I still on? One quick message from the library, please. On October 12th, anybody who is in engineering, faculty, your students, anybody who is interested in IEEE, they are coming to campus to have an awareness table in the atrium at 11 a.m. on Wednesday, October 11th. And then from 12 until 2, they are going to be presenting in the library on how to publish on their platform, how to avoid predatory journals, and how to bring more awareness to your publications once they are pushed out into the world. So I hope you'll join us. They'll also be bringing lunch. So thank you.